Tonight, we're diving deep into all 30 years of Pokémon history. Generations 1 to 9. For those of you who've been joining us consistently, I want to thank you for being such an integral part of our channel. If you're falling asleep with us tonight, let me know in the comments how many nights in a row you've been here. And if this is your first night, just comment day 1. Now let's get back to the video. In the absolute beginning, long before the concepts of light and dark had any meaning, there was only a swirling, endless void. It was an unfathomable expanse of nothingness, completely silent and entirely still, stretching infinitely across the canvas of a cosmos that did not yet exist. But from within the heart of this absolute emptiness, a single, solitary egg emerged. It rested in the quiet dark, all pulsing slowly with the latent, unimaginable energy of everything that would ever come to be. And when that cosmic egg finally hatched, the universe as we know it was born. From its shimmering shell stepped the original one, a being known as Arceus, the creator of all things, whose 1,000 arms began to shape the very fabric of existence. With a profound silent roar that echoed through the newborn vacuum, the creator brought forth the primordial masters of reality. Time began to flow, an unstoppable, invisible river moving ever forward, governed by the diamond-clad deity, Dialga. Space began to expand and fold, carving out the vast physical dimensions of the universe under the watchful, pearl-adorned gaze of Palkia. And in the shadows, a silent, mirrored reflection formed to keep the fragile balance of reality intact. The antimatter realm, known as the Distortion World, ruled by the banished, shadowy serpent, Giratina. With the physical laws of the universe established, the creator sought to give this empty cosmos a soul. And so, the Lake Trio was born. Uxie brought the gift of knowledge, Mesprit bestowed the capacity for deep emotion, and Azelf granted the spark of willpower. Together, they formed the spirit of all living things. Then came the shaping of the Earth itself. Deep within the molten core of the young planet, Groudon expanded the great land masses, while Kyogre filled the vast, deep oceans with torrential rains, and Rayquaza ascended to the ozone layer to calm their inevitable, earth-shattering conflicts. In the aftermath, the colossal Titan Regigigas emerged, using massive ropes to pull the newly formed continents into place across the globe, setting the stage for the dawn of life. This is how the grand mythology of the Pokémon universe begins. It is a sweeping, epic tale of cosmic gods and ancient, elemental forces, of land masses pulled together by leviathans and oceans filled by the tears of titans. But for us sitting in the real world, the universe did not begin with a cosmic egg in an endless void. It began in the humble, quiet, profoundly nostalgic moments of 1996. For many of us, the universe began with the soft, metallic click of a grey plastic cartridge sliding into the back of a heavy, battery-powered handheld console. It began with a tiny monochrome screen flickering to life, casting a faint, greenish-yellow glow into the darkened bedrooms of millions of children who were supposed to be fast asleep. We were greeted by the simple, pixelated image of a monster battling another, accompanied by a high-pitched 8-bit melody that would forever be etched into the deepest corners of our memories. We were presented with a simple, yet profoundly weighty choice between 3 companions: a bulb of grass, a spark of fire, or a shell of water. And with that single choice, we took our very first steps out of our virtual homes, leaving the comforting safety of Pallet Town behind, and bravely walking into the tall grass. For nearly 30 years, we have been walking through that grass. We have traversed 9 distinct generations, embarking on grand adventures that have shaped our childhoods and followed us into adulthood. We have caught, battled, traded, and befriended 1,025 incredible, unique species of creatures. What started as a modest playground rumor-fueled collection of 151 digital monsters on a tiny screen has grown into a sprawling, interconnected, global phenomenon. Why do we keep returning to this world, decade after decade? Why, after 30 years, does the simple, soothing melody of a Pokémon Center healing theme, or the triumphant, energetic fanfare of a gym battle victory, still send a comforting shiver down our spines? It is because this franchise is not merely a sequence of video games released over the years. It is a living, breathing tapestry woven directly into the fabric of our own lives. It is a mirror reflecting our innocence, our friendships, and our innate, deeply human desire for exploration, mystery, and connection. When we look back at the 30-year history of this universe, we are not just observing the staggering evolution of technology, we are watching a world grow up right alongside us. In Generation 1, we were confined to a rigid, grid-based landscape, our imaginations doing the heavy lifting to fill in the vibrant colours and sweeping vistas that the hardware of the late 90s simply could not render. We imagined the heat of the Cinnabar Island volcano and the eerie, chilling silence of the Pokémon Tower in Lavender Town. By Generation 2, the world burst into glorious colour, and time itself began to matter. The sun set and the moon rose in tandem with the actual clock on our bedroom walls. We felt the quiet magic of catching a glimpse of Ho-Oh flying through the autumn sky of Ecruteak City, or the thrill of discovering a differently coloured, shiny creature sparkling in the wild. Generation 3 brought the immersive, atmospheric sounds of heavy, falling rain, the satisfying crunch of volcanic ash beneath our running shoes, and the vast, intimidating, deep blue expanse of the Hoenn region's oceans. As the years turned into decades, the hardware continued to shift and evolve. We moved from the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance, then to the dual screens of the Nintendo DS, where the physical and special mechanics of battle forever changed how we interacted with our companions. We transitioned to the stereoscopic depth of the Nintendo 3DS, witnessing the spectacular, explosive power of Mega Evolution, and finally, we arrived at the sprawling, high-definition horizons of the Nintendo Switch. The static, two-dimensional sprites that we once adored evolved into fully realized, three-dimensional beings that could follow us, play with us, and look us in the eye. The linear, carefully paved routes we once walked eventually broke free of all constraints, offering us massive, fully open worlds. We went from carefully stepping on a grid to soaring freely through the skies of Paldea and riding across the rolling, untamed wild areas of Galar. But beneath the shifting graphics, the changing consoles, and the ever-expanding roster of creatures, the true, enduring stakes of this universe lie in its underlying philosophy. The Pokémon world, beneath its cheerful, colourful exterior, is a masterclass in the delicate balance of existence. It continuously teaches us about the fragile harmony between humanity and nature, between the relentless march of industrial progress and the vital preservation of ancient, sacred lands. Every single generation introduces complex regional conflicts that mirror our own real-world struggles, elevating the narrative from a simple monster-catching game to a compelling exploration of morality. In the Kanto region, we witness the dark side of scientific ambition and human greed, confronting a criminal syndicate that exploited living creatures for profit, and facing the tragic, misunderstood existence of Mewtwo, a clone born from genetic manipulation who questioned his own right to exist. In the Johto region, we explored the tension between preserving ancient traditions and embracing modernity, walking among burned towers and whispering legends. In Hoenn, the stakes escalated to a global environmental crisis. We witnessed the catastrophic consequences of radical, misguided idealism, caught in the middle of a literal climate war between those who wished to expand the landmass by awakening Gruden and those who sought to flood the earth by summoning Kyogre. In the Unova region, we were forced to confront deeply complex moral questions about truth versus ideals. We were challenged by a tragic antagonist named Hoenn, who forced us to question the very ethics of our own journey, asking whether capturing these creatures in Pokeballs was a partnership of love or a cruel act of subjugation. In the Kalos region, we uncovered the chilling horrors of an ancient war that raged 3,000 years ago, and a grieving king who built an ultimate weapon powered by the life energy of Pokémon itself. A weapon so devastating it fractured the very timeline of the universe. In Alola, we dealt with the ecological threat of invasive species from alternate dimensions, the terrifying Ultra Beasts. In Galar, we faced a looming existential energy crisis and the hubris of a chairman willing to awaken a world-ending dragon named Eternatus just to secure the region's industrial future. And in Paldea, we delved into the tragic, obsessive depths of the Great Crater, witnessing how the relentless pursuit of ancient treasures and time travel could tear a family apart. These are not merely children's tales, they are grand, sweeping epics filled with profound triumph and devastating tragedy, acts of creation and moments of near-total destruction, and the bonds we form with our personal teams, the creatures we meticulously train, heal, eat, and rely upon through countless battles are what anchor these massive, epic narratives in something deeply personal and intensely real. We project our hopes, our patience, and our affection onto these digital companions. They become the silent, steadfast witnesses to our own personal growth. The Charizard you raised in 1998, or the Lucario you bonded with in 2006, represent memories that are just as real and just as cherished as the childhood bicycle you rode around your neighborhood. This deep emotional resonance is the absolute lifeblood of the franchise. It is the reason why the lore of this universe feels so incredibly heavy, so rich and so profoundly important to millions of people. Yet for all the bright colours, cheerful melodies, and triumphant victories that define the surface of the Pokémon world, there is a deep, shadowy, and endlessly fascinating undercurrent of mystery that has captivated lore hunters and theorists for decades. The official timeline of the Pokémon universe is not a simple, straightforward line drawn from point A to point B. It is a fragmented, complex, and sometimes contradictory web. It is a massive, global puzzle with missing pieces that we have spent 30 years trying to carefully assemble. The creators and developers have deliberately left massive gaps, hidden secrets, and whispered legends in the margins of the games, inviting us to look closer, to read the ancient texts scattered in libraries, and to dig deeper into the digital soil. Consider the ancient past, a time long, yet long before the modern concept of a Pokémon trainer ever existed. Thousands of years ago, great powerful civilizations rose to dominance and eventually crumbled into dust. Deep beneath the crashing waves of the Unova region's oceans, the abyssal ruins stand as a haunting silent testament to an unnamed ancient king. Their crumbling, waterlogged walls are inscribed with cryptic ciphers that hint at a forgotten empire and a power too dangerous to be remembered. In the modern Paldea region, the Great Crater holds terrifying secrets that blur the very lines between the distant, ancient past and the far-off distant future, housing paradoxical, impossible creatures that completely defy the natural, established laws of evolution. Who actually built the mysterious, unown-filled ruins of Alph in the Johto region? What was the true purpose of the towering ancient pillars of the Spear Pillar at the peak of Mount Coronet? Why were the legendary golems, Regirock, Regishay, and Registeel locked away in sealed, isolated chambers across the Hoenn region by ancient people who feared their overwhelming power? There is a haunting, melancholic beauty in these unanswered questions. The games always present us with a modern, idealized society, a beautiful world of friendly rivals, bustling, high-tech cities, and convenient Pokémon centres. But just beneath the pristine surface lie the buried bones of a much older, much darker world. We have recently seen vivid glimpses of this harsh past in the historical feudal era of Hisui, long before the region was settled and renamed Sinnoh. In Hisui, we experienced a time when people genuinely feared Pokémon, viewing them as terrifying, unpredictable monsters of the wild rather than trusted domestic friends. We explored the snow-swept, treacherous peaks and untamed, dangerous wilds, witnessing firsthand the violent, chaotic birth of the region's mythology. And then there are the chronological mysteries, the subtle hidden threads that tie the 9 generations together into a single, cohesive narrative. We know through subtle in-game clues that the events of Generation 1 in Kanto and Generation 3 in Hoenn occur roughly around the exact same time. We know that the events of Generation 2 in Johto and Generation 4 in Sinnoh take place a mere 3 years later, dealing with the aftermath of the disbanded Team Rocket and the rise of Team Galactic. We know that the events of Generation 5 in Unova happen several years after that, followed by the journeys in Kalos and Alola. But what happens in the quiet, undocumented shadows between these distinct eras? What becomes of our silent protagonists once the credits finally roll and the screen fades to black? The legendary trainer Red, the boy from Pallet Town who conquered the Indigo Plateau, is later found standing completely alone, silently facing the freezing, biting winds on the absolute summit of Mount Silver. He speaks volumes without ever uttering a single word. He represents the ultimate, lingering mystery of the hero's journey. What happens when you reach the absolute pinnacle of power, when you have caught them all and defeated every challenger, leaving the rest of the world behind to stand entirely alone in the blinding snow? Furthermore, were the lore expanded into mind-bending territory with the confirmation of a vast multiverse. Generation 6 introduced the concept that there are different, parallel timelines coexisting simultaneously. There is a timeline where the ancient ultimate weapon was fired 3,000 years ago, creating the energy required for mega evolution, and another timeline, the one we played in the original Game Boy titles, where that weapon was never built at all. This revelation shattered everything we thought we knew, turning minor continuity errors into deliberate, fascinating glimpses into alternate dimensions. It explains the strange anomalies, like the international police officer, Looker, washing up on a beach with complete amnesia, or the eerie, unexplained ghost girl who appears in a darkened building in Lumiose City, simply stating, "No, you're not the one." The lore of the Pokémon universe is an incredibly deep, vast ocean. On the surface, where the water is warm and the sun shines brightly, it is inviting, colourful, and easy to navigate. It is a place of joy and simple victories. But as you hold your breath and dive deeper into the lore, the warm light of the surface begins to fade. The pressure builds, and you encounter massive, ancient leviathans of storytelling moving silently through the dark. You uncover the myths of creation, the brutal, forgotten wars of the past, the manipulation of time and space, and the terrifying, awe-inspiring power of legendary beasts that can scorch the earth, freeze the oceans, or tear literal holes in the fabric of reality. This immense hidden depth is exactly what transforms a simple, turn-based role-playing game into a rich, modern mythology. Tonight, we're going to dive into that deep, quiet ocean. We're going to embark on a comprehensive, incredibly detailed, and deeply immersive journey through all 30 years of Pokémon history. We will trace the intricate, interwoven lore of generations 1 through 9, starting from the very dawn of cosmic creation, and walking step by deliberate step through every single region, every major legend, and every monumental event that has shaped this vast universe. From the pixelated, humble, nostalgic beginnings of the Kanto region, where a quiet boy from Pallet Town dismantled a sprawling, dangerous criminal syndicate, to the time-bending open-world expanses of Paldea, where ancient treasures lie hidden in the deep crater. We will explore the towering spiritual peaks of Johto, the sun-drenched, tropical islands and deep oceans of Hoenn, the mythical, god-touched folklore of Sinnoh, the bustling ideological metropolises of Unova, the historic war-torn beauty of Kalos, the sunny, trial-filled islands of Alola, and the sporting stadium-filled spectacles of Galar. This is a story of evolution. It is not just the evolution of small creatures glowing with a bright, blinding white light as they grow stronger. It is the evolution of a massive, living world. It is the evolution of a beloved franchise that changed the entertainment landscape forever. And most importantly, it is the evolution of the millions of dreamers, players, and trainers who grew up within it, carrying the lessons and memories of these games in their hearts for 3 decades. So as we prepare to step back in time, to return to the very beginning of it all, I invite you to get as comfortable as you possibly can. Let the heavy, stressful tensions of the real world fade away into the background. Let your breathing slow down, becoming deep and even. Let your mind wander back to a much simpler, quieter time. Picture the warm, comforting glow of a small screen illuminating a dark room. Hear the gentle, rhythmic rustle of the tall grass blowing in the digital wind. Feel the pure, unadulterated anticipation of stepping out of your virtual front door, knowing that a massive, uncharted world is waiting out there to be discovered, with a loyal, trusted companion walking right by your side. Close your eyes, relax your shoulders, sink deeply into your bed, and let us begin our long, peaceful journey through the complete, untold, and beautiful history of the Pokémon universe. In the beginning, when there was nothing, no light pierced the endless dark, no sound echoed through the emptiness, no matter stirred in the infinite void. This was the primordial nothingness, a vast expanse where even time and space hesitated to exist, a canvas untouched by creation itself. Yet within this absolute void, a single anomaly appeared, an egg, simple, unadorned, cradled in isolation. Its shell gleamed faintly with an otherworldly sheen, as if woven from the dreams of universes yet unborn. No winds carried it, no forces propelled it. It simply was, suspended in the heart of oblivion, pulsing with a quiet promise that something profound was about to awaken. As eons passed, or perhaps no time passed at all, for time had no dominion here, the egg began to tremble. Cracks spiderwebbed across its surface, not from violence, but from an inner force, building relentlessly. The shell shattered in a burst of radiant energy, flooding the void with golden light that chased shadows into retreat. From this fracture emerged Arceus, the original one, the alpha Pokémon. Towering and majestic, its body a cascade of pristine white plates that shifted like living armor, adorned with a golden wheel of power encircling its form. Arceus floated there, eyes blazing with divine intelligence, the architect of all that would follow. You can almost feel the weight of that moment, can't you? Arceus, alone in the void, surveying the blank slate before it. With deliberate intent, it summoned the fundamental forces that would bind reality together. First came the essence of time itself, a shimmering stream of moments weaving forward and backward eternally. Arceus forged this into Dialga, the temporal Pokémon, a colossal steel-blue dragon whose body pulsed with the rhythm of ticking clocks and fading memories. Dialga's roar warped the void, stretching seconds into hours, birthing the flow that would govern every heartbeat, every sunrise, every Pokémon's lifespan. Not satisfied with time alone, Arceus next conjured the fabric of space. Vast and boundless, it expanded outward in pearlescent waves, folding dimensions upon themselves. From this emerged Palkia, the spatial Pokémon, a majestic pearl-pink behemoth with arms like cosmic claws, capable of twisting distances and realms. Palkia's presence inflated the void into something tangible, creating the distances between stars, the chasms between mountains, the hidden pockets where wild Pokémon would one day roam freely. But creation demanded balance, and Arceus delved deeper into the shadows of existence to birth the third pillar, antimatter. A chaotic force, raw and volatile, it clashed against the harmony of time and space. Giratina materialized from this turmoil, the renegade Pokémon, a ghostly spectre of black and red, its serpentine form armored in jagged golden veins, wings like shattered mirrors reflecting distorted realities. Giratina embodied the destructive undercurrent, the antimatter that could unravel what Dialga and Palkia had woven. At first, the trio coexisted in fragile unity, their powers intertwining to stabilize the nascent universe. Dialga's timelines flowed through Palkia's expanses, while Giratina's antimatter provided the counterforce, preventing stagnation or collapse. Arceus watched over them, its golden wheel spinning faster, channeling energy into this delicate triad. The void began to hum with potential, faint sparks of matter flickering like distant stars. Yet harmony fractured swiftly. Giratina's nature proved untamable, so its antimatter essence fueling a rage that warped the budding cosmos. It lashed out, tearing rifts in the Palkia's space, devouring Dialga's timelines in bursts of void-born fury. Shadows twisted into aberrations, threatening to consume the fragile order. Arceus, the unwavering creator, could not abide this chaos. With a surge of divine authority, it seized Giratina and cast it out, banishing the renegade to a parallel realm born of its own distortion, the Distortion World. There, Giratina reigns in eternal exile, its form inverted, a guardian of antimatter's fury, occasionally glimpsed by those who dare peer beyond the veil. The Distortion World mirrors our reality in fractured mockery. Gravity inverts, colors bleed into negatives, time loops in maddening spirals. It's a place where platforms float untethered, where echoes of Giratina's roars summon spectral winds, and where the boundary between existence and oblivion thins to a whisper. With Giratina sealed away, Arceus turned its gaze to the void once more, now primed for true formation. The original one prepared to shape the primordial earth from the interplay of time, space, and the echoes of banished antimatter. What wonders would rise from this foundation as continents emerge and oceans carve their paths? That story unfolds next in Shaping the Primordial Earth, where the raw forces collide to birth a world alive with possibility. With the universe's core forces now humming in perfect harmony, Arceus descended into the swirling nebula of gas and dust that would become the Pokémon world. This was no mere spark of life, but a deliberate act of sculpting, or where the original one birthed its most primal servants to mold a planet from raw potential. From plates of earth and magma rose Groudon, the embodiment of land's unyielding might, its crimson hide cracking like cooling lava, eyes burning with the hunger to expand. And from the abyssal depths emerged Kyogre, sovereign of the seas, its azure scales shimmering like endless ocean waves, driven by an instinct to flood the world in boundless water. These titans clashed in cataclysms that shook the forming sphere. Groudon stomped across molten plains, raising towering mountains and vast continents with every thunderous step, sunlight intensifying under its primal roar as drought scorched the air. Kyogre countered with torrents that drowned the newborn landmasses, carving oceans deep enough to swallow stars. Storms raging with hurricane fury that lashed the skies into frenzy. Their battles weren't petty squabbles, but world-altering wars, lands surging upward in jagged spikes, only to be submerged by tidal onslaughts. Magma rivers hardening into archipelagos before being eroded into nothingness. The planet groaned under the strain, volcanoes erupting in sympathy, earthquakes splitting the crust as primal drizzle turned to apocalyptic downpours. Blue orb and red orb, ancient relics pulsing with their essences, amplified the chaos, drawing in every drop of moisture or particle of soil until the balance teetered on oblivion. The ozone layer thickened into a shimmering veil, shielding the fragile atmosphere, but even that couldn't contain the turmoil. Weather turned apocalyptic, endless rain warring with blistering heat, winds howling like vengeful spirits. That's when Rayquaza uncoiled from its lofty throne high above, the sky dragon descending like a comet of emerald fury. Slender and serpentine, its body slicing through thunderheads, Rayquaza embodied the delicate equilibrium of the heavens. With a deafening screech that parted the clouds, it dove between the warring behemoths, mega evolving, in some tellings, into a form of pure atmospheric dominance. Groudon and Kyogre paused, their primal urges quelled by Rayquaza's draconic authority, retreating to slumbering depths, Groudon to Earth's fiery core, Kyogre to ocean trenches, leaving behind a world half-formed, scarred by their ambition. Yet the planet still drifted as scattered landmasses adrift on molten currents, a puzzle of islands and proto-continents bobbing in primordial seas. Enter Regigigas, the colossal golem forged by Arceus in Sinnoh's ancient myths, its massive frame woven from unyielding rock and boundless strength. Towering over mountains yet to be named, its yellow moustache-like markings glowing with continental might, Regigigas gripped the edges of these land chunks with hands like tectonic vices. Slowly, methodically, it towed them into position, hauling Johto's rolling hills adjacent to Kanto's rugged coasts, aligning Hoenn's volcanic chains with Sinnoh's icy peaks. The Regi trio, Regirock of stone, Regise of eternal frost, Registeel of meteoric alloy, followed as its tireless aids, solidifying the foundations, freezing fjords, and forging mountain ranges. Regigigas strained against the planet's spin, muscles bulging like living bedrock until the supercontinent stabilized. Rivers carving paths, forests sprouting on fertile soils. This geographic ballet set the stage for rivers to flow, winds to whisper across plains, and the first sparks of life to flicker in tide pools. Now, with land and sea in tense harmony, the Pokémon world breathed its first stable dawn. Sunlight filtered through clearing skies, warming soils where the tiniest microbes stirred, precursors to Bulbasaur's seeds and Squirtle's waves. Human tribes would later wander these continents, building villages amid Regigigas's handiwork, unaware of the golem's distant slumbers in snowy caverns. But harmony was fleeting. Shadows of conflict loomed even in this nascent era, whispers of a war in Kalos that would scar the earth with ultimate weapons and forgotten ruins. As we drift toward Chapter 3, the tragedy of the Kalos War, you'll uncover how ancient kings unleashed devastation that echoes through every generation, pulling you deeper into the lore's darkest turns. With the primal fury of Groudon and Kyogre finally quelled, their endless clash giving way to a fragile balance of land and sea, the Pokémon world began to breathe. Vast continents settled into place, oceans carved their depths, and life stirred across the young planet in waves of green and blue. Millennia drifted by in relative quiet, civilizations rising from the soil like roots seeking light. But 3,000 years before the modern era, before the first Pokeballs or League badges etched their mark, darkness gathered over the elegant spires of Kalos. This region, with its luminous skies and rolling fields of eternal spring, had blossomed into a kingdom of unparalleled beauty. And at its heart ruled King Aezid, a monarch whose wisdom and compassion were whispered in every court, from Lumiosi to the wilds beyond. By his side, closer than any advisor or queen, fluttered Floette, a tiny, delicate Pokémon with petals like fresh dawn and eyes that held the warmth of a hearth. She was no ordinary companion. She was his light, his confidant, the one who danced through his gardens, turning wilted blooms to vibrant life. Together they embodied Kalos's grace, a bond between human and Pokémon that seemed unbreakable. War came without mercy. Rival kingdoms, envious of Kalos's prosperity, unleashed their armies in a storm of steel and fury. Fields that once bloomed with flowers now drank deep of blood. Pokémon were conscripted into the fray, their roars mingling with the screams of the fallen. King Az watched in horror as his people crumbled, his cities scarred by siege. And then, in the chaos of a brutal battlefield, Floette fell. A stray arrow meant for the king pierced her fragile form. She vanished in a shimmer of light, her final gaze locking onto Az's with unspoken forgiveness. The king cradled empty air, his world shattering in that instant. Grief twisted him into something unyielding. No longer the gentle ruler, Az poured his soul into forbidden sciences, drawing on ancient energies unearthed from Kalos's hidden caves. He forged the ultimate weapon, a colossal machine of glowing stone and infinite power, shaped like a towering flower that pierced the heavens. At first, its purpose was pure, to reverse death itself, to pull life from the void and bring Floette back. He channeled the essence of Pokémon vitality, or the pulse of the earth, believing this creation could mend what war had torn. But desperation breeds corruption. As enemy forces closed in, overwhelming Kalos's defenses, Az's advisors pleaded for its use, not as a healer, but as a destroyer. The weapon hummed to life beneath the kingdom's central plateau, its core swirling with otherworldly light. When he activated it, a beam of pure annihilation lanced skyward, then bloomed outward in a cataclysmic wave. Armies vaporized in an instant, tens of thousands gone. Their Pokémon reduced to echoes. The rival kingdoms crumbled, their lands scorched to glass. Kalos stood victorious, but at what price? The air itself wept with ash, rivers ran black, and the sky hung heavy with unnatural silence. In the weapon's aftermath, a miracle unfolded. Floette returned, as revived by the machine's life-giving heart, her petals pristine once more. Yet she recoiled from Az, sensing the slaughter wrought in her name. She fled into the wilderness, leaving the king hollowed, immortalized by the weapon's curse. He wandered eternally, a ghost in his own triumph. The ultimate weapon sealed away beneath Geosenge town, its chamber a tomb of regret. That devastation lingered far beyond the graves of the fallen. The weapon's discharge tore open rifts in reality, spilling cosmic radiation across Kalos, strange particles that seeped into stones, waters, and the very DNA of Pokémon. This ethereal glow, invisible yet potent, infused certain beings with boundless potential. Millennia later, it would awaken as Mega Evolution, allowing trainers to unlock hidden forms through the resonance of Megastones and Keystones. What began as a king's lament became the spark of transcendence, a double-edged legacy etched into Kalos's soul. King Az's tale warns of bonds pushed to ruin, of power that devours its wielder. His Floette, forever lost to him, symbolizes the innocence war devours. And though Kalos rebuilt in splendor, the scars remain, whispers in Lumios's lights, shadows in Prism Tower's gleam. The ultimate weapon sleeps still, its radiation a quiet promise of evolutions yet to come. But the echoes of ancient empires ripple further, drawing us toward the rise of the Paldean Empire and the Great Crater, a mystery of glittering treasures and forbidden depths that swallowed civilizations whole. What secrets lie buried there, waiting to reshape everything you thought you knew? 2,000 years ago, and with the echoes of Kalos's ancient war still whispering through forgotten ruins, a bold new empire stirred to life in the sun-drenched hills of Paldea. Here, where rolling plains met jagged mountains under endless blue skies, ambitious warlords united fractious tribes into a single unyielding force. They called it the Paldean Empire, forged in the fires of conquest and bound by dreams of boundless wealth. Villages swelled into sprawling cities of terracotta and stone. Markets brimmed with spices from distant shores, and armies marched under banners emblazoned with the radiant sun. Paldea's rulers, crowned in gold filigree that caught the light like captured stars, proclaimed their domain the heart of the world, a land where humanity and Pokémon forged destinies side by side. At the Empire's core pulsed an insatiable hunger for glory. Paldea's fertile earth yielded bountiful harvests, its Pokémon fierce and loyal, from the graceful Meowscarada, prowling shadowed groves to the thunderous Tinkerton, hammering steel in forge-lit halls. Yet the Emperors gazed outward, their eyes drawn to the island's most enigmatic scar, the Great Crater. This colossal wound in the earth dominated Paldea's horizon, a yawning abyss ringed by sheer cliffs that plunged into impenetrable darkness. Legends spoke of it as the spot where the world itself had cracked open during creation's fury, spitting forth treasures beyond mortal ken. Whispers among elders told of glittering veins of crystal pulsing with otherworldly light, relics from gods long vanished, and herbs that could mend the gravest wounds or unleash tempests from a single leaf. Of the first expeditions, launched under Emperor whatever their name, a visionary tyrant whose name now fades into myth, but whose ambition etched itself into Paldea's soul. Armies of explorers, clad in armour etched with protective runes, descended with ropes woven from hardy Lishonk hides and torches fueled by combi honey that burned slow and true. They rappelled into the crater's maw, hearts pounding against the roar of wind whipping through vertical shafts, where gravity seemed to twist and betray. Avalanches of loose shale thundered down without warning, swallowing entire squads. Poisonous mists rose from unseen depths, twisting lungs and visions alike, while colossal roots, remnants of ancient trees that predated the Empire, lashed out like living serpents, ensnaring the unwary. Those who pressed deeper returned changed, some their tales fueling fevered preparations for the next venture. One survivor, a grizzled miner with eyes wide as saucers, described caverns where the air hummed with static, walls encrusted in crystals that shifted hues from sapphire to crimson under torchlight. Pokémon unseen before lurked in the gloom, ferocious beasts with hides like molten rock or wings that sliced fog like blades. But the true prize emerged from these perils, Herba Mystica, the miracle herb. These rare plants, glowing faintly with an inner radiance, grew in hidden grottos deep within the crater's labyrinth. Scarlet petals curled like flames, azure leaves shimmered like ocean waves, golden fronds evoked endless sands, violet blooms whispered of twilight mysteries. Ingested or infused into elixirs, Herba Mystica granted Pokémon extraordinary powers, bolstering strength to shatter boulders, accelerating growth to maturity in moons rather than years, even stirring latent energies long dormant. Word of these wonders spread like wildfire through the Empire. Emperors hoarded the harvest, doling it out to champion battlers who swelled Paldea's legions into invincible hordes. Cities erupted in celebrations, with parades of empowered Pokémon, dazzling crowds, Skeledirge, breathing infernos that painted the night sky, Quaquaval, dancing whirlpools into fountains of liquid starlight. Yet the crater yielded darker secrets. Scribes accompanying later expeditions unearthed ancient texts etched on slabs of iridescent stone half buried in silt-choked chambers. These writings, in a script predating even Paldea's unification, and spoke of violations of time's veil. They described intruders from beyond the veil, creatures displaced through rifts, some hulking behemoths of iron and fury that echoed future epochs, others sleek predators with silicon veins pulsing like machinery. Paradoxes, the texts named them, harbingers of chaos that warped the crater's ecosystem, clashing with native Pokémon in battles that scarred the depths. Scholars pored over these fragments by candlelight in imperial libraries, their quills scratching furiously as they deciphered warnings of a shimmering core at the crater's nadir. This heart, they learned, cradled the terrestrial phenomenon itself, a vast subterranean lattice of terra crystals, veins of pure energy threading through the planet's bones. Dormant for eons, these crystals resonated with the life force of Pokémon, are capable of reshaping types in bursts of prismatic glory. The Empire's alchemists experimented in secret, grinding herba mystica into pastes that awakened faint glimmers in surface stones, hinting at the power slumbering below. Expeditions grew bolder, delving strata, where gravity faltered and echoes mimicked voices from unborn tomorrows, but many vanished entirely, their lanterns snuffed into legend. The Paldean Empire peaked on these discoveries, its influence stretching across seas, but the crater's allure proved a double-edged blade. Greed fractured alliances as nobles vied for exclusive halls of herba mystica, sparking civil strife amid the opulence. Paradox sightings multiplied in expedition logs, glimpses of roaring screamtails with prehistoric savagery, or walking wakes gliding through subterranean rivers with primordial grace. The texts prophesied that tampering with the core would unleash these anomalies en masse, blurring past, present and future into a maelstrom. Emperors dismissed such omens, pushing deeper, their drills biting into crystal beds that hummed in protest. Beneath it all, the terrestrial foundation lay coiled, a quiet promise of transformation. Terra crystals, born perhaps from the same cataclysm that birthed the crater, absorbed ambient energies, waiting for the spark that would one day allow Pokémon to crystallize their essence, shifting battles with kaleidoscopic might. Paldea's explorers brushed against this truth, unearthing shards that warriors prized as talismans, but the full awakening slumbered, veiled in the Earth's silent vigil. As the Empire's golden age waned, its crater quests, seeding both wonders and woes, her eyes turned northward to untamed wilds, where even greater enigmas awaited humanity's grasp. In the next chapter, the wilds of the Hisui region, we'll venture into feudal frontiers, teeming with spectral forces and primordial clashes that redefined the bonds between trainers and their Pokémon forever. Centuries after the Paldean explorers braved the depths of the Great Crater, the world turned its gaze northward to a vast untamed land, cloaked in perpetual mist and shadowed peaks. This was Hisui, the ancient cradle of what would one day become Sinnoh, a place where jagged mountains pierced the heavens and dense forests whispered secrets older than memory. Here, humans scratched out a fragile existence in scattered settlements, their lives governed by fear. Pokémon roamed freely, not as companions, but as enigmatic forces of nature, fierce guardians of the wilds, quick to lash out at any intruder who dared encroach on their domains. You can almost feel the chill wind slicing through the obsidian fieldlands, where colossal weirdeer stampede across dew-kissed plains, their antlers gleaming like polished blades under the pale dawn. Villages huddled behind wooden palisades, their inhabitants whispering tales of alpha Pokémon, those towering behemoths whose roars shook the earth and whose eyes burned with primal fury. Bonds between people and Pokémon? They were myths, born of desperation rather than trust. A child venturing too far might return with scars from a Starly's talons, or vanish entirely into the Crimson Myland's swampy embrace, claimed by a Hisuian Gudra's possessive coils. Survival demanded caution, distance, a reverence from afar. Humans built no Pokeballs yet. Encounters were raw, unpredictable clashes that left both sides wary and wounded. Into this divided world sailed the Galaxy Expedition Team, a band of bold settlers from distant shores, led by the visionary commander Kamado. Their ships crested the waves under stormy skies, dropping anchor at the foot of towering cliffs in the cobalt coastlands. These weren't conquerors, but scholars driven by curiosity, armed with quills, parchment, and an unyielding drive to understand the unknown. They established Jubilife Village as their foothold, a sturdy cluster of timber halls buzzing with the chatter of surveyors and crafters. For the first time, humans sought not just to endure the wilds, but to map them, to catalogue every Pokémon that prowled the land. Picture the early expeditions fanning out from campfires at dusk. Teams wielded crude Pokédex prototypes, sketching Bidoof's buck teeth by lantern light, noting Electrode's explosive tempers in the Coronet Highlands' craggy heights. They tossed rice balls as lures, coaxing wary shinks from the underbrush, their pencils flying to capture every whisker, every scale. Progress was perilous. A misplaced step in the Alabaster Icelands could summon a blizzard from a Bomasnau's fury, burying notes in snowdrifts. Yet they persisted, classifying hundreds of species, Hisuian forms warped by the land's ancient energies, like the poison-tipped Voltorb or the ghostly Zoroark that mimicked lost loved ones to lure the unwary. This was the dawn of the Pokédex, humanity's first bridge across the chasm of fear, turning monsters into mysteries worth unraveling. But as the Galaxy team's lanterns flickered brighter, the sky itself began to fracture. Reddish rifts tore open without warning, jagged wounds in the fabric of reality, spilling otherworldly energies that warped the air and twisted the ground. Pokémon emerged from these portals changed, frenzied, their cries echoing like thunder across the regions. In the Obsidian Fieldlands, herds panicked. In the Crimson Mirelands, rivers boiled with agitated basculin. These space-time distortions weren't mere storms. They were harbingers, pulling creatures from eras unborn, fueling chaos that no rice ball could soothe. The noble Pokémon of Hisui rose in wrath. Ancient lords bound to the land's soul. Cleaver, warden of the Obsidian Wilds, cleaved boulders with scythes forged from crimson stone, its silhouette a warning etched against crimson skies. A Lilligant danced through meadows turned toxic, petals wilting allies who strayed too close. In the highlands, Avalug crushed paths under icy bulk, while the seas churned under Basculegion's spectral charge. These wardens, revered as much as feared, channeled the land's rage against the rifts, their roars demanding balance restored. Villages trembled as alphas rampaged, unchecked, their sizes dwarfing trees, eyes glowing with rift-born madness. The Galaxy team scrambled, their catalogues forgotten amid the need to appease these enraged sovereigns, offering fruits, performing rituals, forging fragile pacts under the fractured heavens. Lurking in these shadows of strife was Volo, a merchant whose golden hair and sly smile masked a heart consumed by mania. He wandered the wilds with a merchant's cart laden with relics, trading warp plates and stardust for secrets, his eyes always scanning the horizon for signs from above. Volo wasn't content with mere survival or study. He hungered for the divine. Arceus, the original one, haunted his every thought, the creator whose footsteps shaped the world from nothingness. Legend spoke of plates that commanded creation itself, and Volo collected them obsessively, whispering to himself in candlelit tents about a reunion that would remake reality. His schemes unfolded like smoke from a hidden fire. Volo manipulated the Galaxy team from afar, feeding half-truths to their survey corps, steering them toward forbidden ruins in the clambering rings, where ancient carvings depicted Arceus's thousand-fold arms. He courted the player, that newly arrived recruit, offering guidance laced with deceit, and all while plotting to exploit the rifts. The distortions? To Volo, they were doorways, invitations from the alpha Pokémon itself. He unleashed orchestrated betrayals, summoning Giratina from the distortion world, pitting Dialga and Palkia against each other in cataclysmic clashes that rent Mount Coronet asunder. Time warped, space folded, lakes froze in summer's heat, stars wheeled backward in the night sky. Volo's obsession peaked in the heart of the Temple of Sinnoh, where murals of creation peeled under rift light. He sought not harmony, but ascension, believing only he could stand worthy before Arceus, wielding the plates as to command the universe's reigns. Battles raged across shattered plateaus, noble Pokémon clashing with intruders from fractured times, while Volo's laughter cut through the din, as a merchant's facade crumbling to reveal a zealot's fire. The Galaxy team's fragile peace teetered, humans forced to choose between fear's old chains and bonds forged in riftborn fire. Yet from this turmoil, something enduring sparked, a shift from separation to understanding, etched into Hisui's wild heart. As the rifts scarred the sky and Volo's ambitions clashed with destiny itself, the true story of Hisui whispers of beginnings that echo far beyond its misty shores. And soon, you'll hear how that ancient spark ignited a revolution in the real world, in a tale called A Spark in the Real World. As the Galaxy Expedition team's fragile bonds with Pokémon in ancient Hisui began to bridge the chasm between humans and creatures, a similar spark ignited far beyond that feudal wilderness, in our world and in the damp forests of rural Japan during the 1970s. Satoshi Tajiri grew up in Machida, a sleepy town west of Tokyo, where concrete sprawl hadn't yet swallowed the wild edges. Weekends meant escaping to nearby hills and riverbanks, his pockets bulging with glass jars, alive with the twitch of beetles and cicadas. He'd spend hours prying bark from trees, unearthing rhinoceros beetles locked in territorial standoffs, their armoured shells glinting under dappled sunlight. Friends from school joined the hunt, trading rare finds like currency, a sturdy stag beetle for a shimmering jewel wasp, each swap sealing alliances amid the rustle of leaves and distant train whistles. Those childhood pursuits weren't just play, they were obsession. Tajiri's father worried as his son skipped meals, returning home scratched and muddied, her jars lined up like trophies on his bedroom shelves. By his teens, into the early 1980s, he'd launched a fanzine called Game Freak, chronicling arcade scores and gadget hacks. But the bugs never left him. Urbanization clawed at his hunting grounds, roads paving over streams, buildings rising where stag beetles once roamed. Tajiri saw kids his age glued to handheld games, isolated in their pixels, trading virtual highs instead of real treasures. That loss fueled his vision. What if you could capture those vanishing bugs, shrink them into capsules, and carry a whole wilderness in your pocket? He sketched prototypes, monsters sealed in balls, tossed to battle, collected in endless pursuit. Capsule Monsters, he called it at first, a trading card game where players swapped holographic cards of bizarre beasts. Oh, but cards felt too static. He dreamed bigger, a portable electronic world where trading happened across Link's devices, preserving the thrill of the hunt without the jars breaking. Nintendo took notice in 1989. The Game Boy had just launched, that chunky grey brick with its pea-green screen and 4-shade palette, powered by AA batteries that drained like sand through fingers. Tajiri's tiny team at Game Freak, barely half a dozen, pitched their monster-catching RPG. Ken Sugimori, the artist with his meticulous pencil strokes, began drafting over 150 creatures, from seed pods that bloomed into walking fortresses to flame-tailed lizards. Junichi Masuda layered in chiptune melodies that echoed forest whispers and thunderous clashes. Development stretched into a grueling odyssey, 6 years of code crawling across the Game Boy's creaky 1989 hardware. The processor chugged at 4 MHz, memory a miserly 8 kilobytes. Enough for Tetris maybe, but a sprawling region of routes, gyms and hidden groves. Programmers wrestled glitches that warped maps into labyrinths, battles freezing mid-leap. Battery life became the enemy. Tests showed players draining cells after mere hours, stranding them mid-journey. They optimized ruthlessly, compressing sprites until they flickered like distant fireflies, recycling tiles to fake vastness. Tsunekazu Ishihara, the producer, poured his own savings in as Game Freak teetered on bankruptcy. Sleepless nights blurred into dawn, coffee stains marking pixelated mock-ups. They built the world from Tajiri's maps, trails he'd hiked as a boy, who now digitized into serpentine paths. Over 200 trainers roamed, each with Pokémon rosters that forced strategic swaps. Trading via link cable was revolutionary. 2 Game Boys humming in sync, data packets zipping like traded bugs between jars. By late 1995, Red and Green edged toward completion. But one creature lingered in secrecy. Mew, the ghostly kitten of myth, born from a single eyelash plucked in the South American jungle, real-world inspiration from Tajiri's readings. With days to launch, they slipped her in. A hidden hexadecimal code, activatable only by glitch-hunting wizards. No menu access, no badge required, just raw curiosity to trigger her teleport from the unknown. On February 27, 1996, Pokémon Red and Green shipped in Japan. Bundled with shrink-wrapped manuals thick as novels, they flew off shelves in Akihabara and rural electronics shops. Kids linked cables on playgrounds, whispers spreading of a phantom pink sprite. Rumours exploded, Mew lurked in every truck, summonable by truck glitches or elite trainer dances. Magazine detectives dissected carts. Playground code circulated like contraband. That secret line of code didn't just hide a Pokémon. It ignited a global mania. Playgrounds buzzing from Tokyo to trading cards, swapped under desks. These humble pixels, born from a boy's bug jars on aging hardware, cracked open a universe you'd only glimpsed in ancient myths. And soon, in Chapter 7, Welcome to Kanto, you'll lace up your sneakers and step into that pixelated frontier yourself, where every rustle hides your first capture. From that childhood fascination with capsule monsters, Satoshi Tajiri and his team at Game Freak breathed life into a world that would captivate millions, releasing Pokémon Red and Green in Japan on February 27, 1996, pulling you straight into the heart of Kanto, the land where every modern Pokémon journey truly begins. You stir awake in your cozy bedroom in Pallet Town, the salty sea breeze drifting through the open window from the nearby coast, carrying the distant cries of Wingull and the faint rustle of leaves from Viridian Forest. It's your 10th birthday, the day you've waited for your entire life, the moment when you step out as a Pokémon trainer, ready to etch your name into the annals of the Indigo League. Your mother smiles warmly downstairs, handing you a pair of brand new running shoes, their soles crisp and untested, whispering that Professor Oak awaits with something extraordinary. Oak's laboratory hums with quiet purpose, shelves lined with Pokeballs glinting under the fluorescent lights, charts of Pokémon habitats pinned to every wall. The professor, his white lab coat slightly rumpled from years of fieldwork, holds out 3 Pokeballs, each pulsing with potential. There, shimmering in the palm of your hand, lies your destiny. Bulbasaur, the sturdy grass and poison type, its bulb a verdant promise of growth, vines ready to ensnare foes with sleepy powders or razor-sharp strikes. Charmander, the flame-tailed fire lizard, eyes fierce and determined, its tail flame flickering like a beacon in the night, destined to evolve into the blazing Charizard that soars through stormy skies. Or Squirtle, the resilient water turtle, shell gleaming like polished armor, capable of withdrawing into a defensive fortress while unleashing torrents that could flood a battlefield. Your rival, your childhood friend, ever eager to prove himself, snatches one before you decide, dashing off with a cocky grin and a challenge already burning in his eyes. But yours is chosen, bonded in that instant, the first thread in the tapestry of battles ahead. With your starter at your side, you step onto Route 1, the tall grass swaying gently, Pidgey fluttering overhead, the world opening wide. Pewter City calls first, where Brock's rock-solid Geodude test your mettle, demanding strategy over brute force. Then Cerulean, Misty's aquatic cascade of Starmie and Staryu, waves crashing in gym battles that leave the air thick with mist. This is the rhythm of Kanto, the bass line etched into every trainer's soul. 8 gym leaders standing as gatekeepers, each badge a hard-won emblem sewn onto your case, from the electric fury of Lieutenant Surge in Vermilion to the ghostly whispers of Sabrina in Saffron. Viridian Gym looms last, shrouded in mystery, but the path winds through caves and forests, across cycling roads' brisk winds and seafoam islands' icy depths, where Articuno's legend chills the subterranean air. Victory means the Pokémon League, atop the towering Indigo Plateau, where champions clash under the watchful eyes of the Elite Four. Lorelei's icy glares, Bruno's raw power, Agatha's spectral haunts, Lance's draconic roars, and finally, the untouchable champion. Yet beneath this sunlit quest, shadows stir, whispers reach you in Mount Moon's echoing caverns, where fresh-faced grunts in black uniforms with red R insignias scurry like rats, their stolen fossils clutched tight. Team Rocket, they call themselves, a syndicate cloaked in arrogance, led by a figure whose name sends shivers through the underground markets of Celadon City. These aren't mere thieves, they're exploiters, twisting the sacred bond between human and Pokémon into a machine of profit. In the dim alleys of Rocket Hideout beneath the Celadon Game Corner, slot machines jingle as cover for their operations, where Pokémon are smuggled in crates, forced into battles for gambling dens, or worse, dissected for rare parts sold to the highest bidder. You feel it in the air of Saffron City, where the towering Sylph Company skyscraper becomes a war zone, floors crawling with rocket agents, deploying Zubats and Rattata in relentless waves. Master Balls vanish from labs, Pokémon poached from their habitats, all funneled into Giovanni's empire, a gym leader hiding in plain sight, his Persian at his heel like a loyal's enforcer. Their grunts boast of electric rodents, jolted for power plants, fire types milked for flames to fuel illicit forges, every capture a step toward domination. The Master Ball prototype, meant to ensnare even the mightiest legendaries, slips through their fingers into your hands amid the chaos. A tool forged in corporate espionage, now yours to wield. But the true horror festers on Cinnabar Island, that volcanic speck adrift in Kanto's seas where the air reeks of sulfur and the ground trembles under your feet. The Pokémon Mansion, a charred ruin clinging to the cliffside, windows shattered like broken promises. It draws you in with its scorched walls and flickering diary pages scattered across blood-stained floors. Here, amid the ashes of ambition gone mad, the tale of Mewtwo unfolds, not born of nature's whim, but clawed from the depths of human hubris. Flip through the weathered journals, ink faded but words searing. Scientists, funded by shadowy patrons, unearthed Mew, the phantom Pokémon. Ancestor to all, its DNA a genetic treasure trove smuggled from the steamy jungles of Guyana, far beyond Kanto's shores. In sterile labs hidden within the mansion, they spliced and fused, accelerating evolution in vats bubbling with synthetic serums, birthing a creature of unimaginable power. Mewtwo, they named it, eyes glowing purple with rage, its psychic might shattering containment fields on the night of its awakening. The explosion that razed the mansion claimed lives, including the lead researchers. His final entry, a lament for the new life that turned monster, escaping into the shadows to brood in Cerulean Cave, a psychic storm waiting for reckoning. This engineered abomination haunts Kanto's underbelly, a mirror to Team Rocket's greed, proof that tampering with Pokémon's essence invites catastrophe. Yet your journey presses on, badges gleaming, your starter evolved into a powerhouse, the League within grasp. But Giovanni, the architect of it all, his Viridian gym, now a throne room of villainy, teeters on the edge of ruin. As we turn to Chapter 8, The Fall of Giovanni, you'll witness the Rocket Boss's empire crumble from within, his secrets exposed in a confrontation that reshapes Kanto forever. Stick around, and because what happens next will leave you questioning every badge you ever chased. With your starter Pokémon by your side, the journey through Kanto's 8 gyms unfolds like a rite of passage, each badge a hard-won emblem of growth and grit. Brock's rocky pewter falls first, testing your earth-shaking resolve. Misty's cascading waves in Cerulean demand fluid adaptation. Lieutenant Surge's electric fury in Vermilion sparks your quickest reflexes. Erica's verdant Celadon blooms hide poisonous traps that teach you patience. Koga's shadowy fuchsia ninjas strike from the fog, honing your instincts. Sabrina's saffron psyches bend reality itself, forcing you to pierce illusions. Blaine's Cinnabar Inferno scorches the air, rewarding bold risks. But Viridian's badge, the eighth and elusive, waits shrouded in mystery, and its leader absent when you first arrive. Yet woven through these triumphs, a sinister thread pulls tighter. Team Rocket. You first brush against them in the dim caves of Mount Moon, where grunts in black uniforms snatch rare fossils from the dripping walls. Their R emblazoned like a fresh scar. Clefairy's moonlit dances echo faintly as you drive them out, but whispers spread. These thugs aren't mere thieves. They're a syndicate, burrowing into Kanto's underbelly, peddling Pokémon for profit, experimenting in hidden labs. The encounters escalate as you press north. In the bustling arcades of Celadon City, beneath the game corner's flashing lights, a hidden switch reveals their sprawling underground hideout. The air grows thick with the hum of machinery and the cries of caged Pokémon. Where you descend elevator shafts into labyrinths patrolled by electrode bombs and venomous Arbok coils, smashing computers that hold the key to their operations. Here, you thwart their boss's plans to flood the market with counterfeit badges, but a chilling memo slips free. Giovanni, the enigmatic leader, eyes greater power. Saffron City becomes the boiling point. Team Rocket seizes Sylph Company, the gleaming tower of innovation piercing the skyline. Executives huddle in terror as grunts warp floors with teleporters, their muck oozing sludge across sterile labs. You climb floor by grueling floor, battling Raticate swarms and Hypno's hypnotic gazes, allying briefly with the Elite Four's Bruno for muscle. At the pinnacle, Giovanni himself emerges from the shadows, his Persian at his heel like a loyal enforcer. Cloaked in a tailored suit, her voice gravelly with authority, he unleashes his beastly lineup. Rhyhorn charging like a freight train, Nidoqueen spraying toxic barbs, and that sleek Persian clawing with surgical precision. Victory here scatters his forces from the tower, but Giovanni vanishes into the ether, his empire teetering, yet unbroken. Rumours swirl through Viridian forests, rustling leaves and the salty breezes of Route 10. The final gym, once empty, now pulses with forbidden energy. You return to Viridian City, its northern sprawl dominated by that squat arena building, windows blacked out like watchful eyes. Push through the doors and the twist hits like a hyper beam. Giovanni stands at the helm, not as a shadowy crime lord, but as Viridian's official gym leader. The mafia boss moonlighting as a badge giver, and his collection of earth-shaking titans disguised as a legitimate challenge. The air crackles with hypocrisy. Posters of Pewter's rocks adorn the walls, but the floor vibrates under hidden machinations. He greets you with a smirk, admitting his dual throne. Gym leader by day, rocket overlord, fueling an underworld built on exploitation. No more pretense. This is the showdown Kanto demands. Giovanni unleashes his full arsenal, Raiden thundering across the arena, its drill horns spinning like a cyclone. Nidoqueen and Nidoking tag-teaming with dual poison fury. Kingler pinching with oversized claws, forged in coastal depths. Persian darts in for the kill, eyes gleaming with feral cunning. Your team, forged through badges and betrayals, counters every blow. Your ace Pokémon digging deep into reserves, type advantages flipping the tide. The crowd hushes as Giovanni's empire crumbles, badge tumbling from his grasp into your palm. Defeated, he concedes. Team Rocket disbands. The criminal web unravels across Kanto, hideouts abandoned, grunts fleeing into the night. For now, the region's shadows recede. Badge complete, the path clears to Victory Road. That serpentine cavern snaking beneath the Indigo Plateau. Lanterns flicker on jagged walls, where wild golbats screech and onyx burrow through stone veins. Trainers lurk in alcoves, testing your mettle one last time. Emerge into sunlight at the league's summit, the massive stadium ringed by mist-shrouded peaks. Lorelei's icy glacians shatter under fire. Bruno's muscle mountains topple to precision strikes. Agatha's ghost phantasms fade before raw light. Lance's dragonflights crash in flames. Finally, Champion Blue awaits, and his evolved powerhouse team, a mirror of your own journey. Pidgeot soaring, Alakazam bending spoons with psychic might, Raiden mirroring Giovanni's fury. The battle echoes across the plateau, every command a crescendo. Triumph seals it. You claim the throne. Pokémon League champion of Kanto. The professor's words ring true. Your bond has conquered not just gyms but the heart of darkness itself. But horizons beckon beyond these peaks. In Chapter 9, Expanding the Horizon, a new region stirs just west, where times flow and fresh legends await. Will you chase them into uncharted wilds? 3 years have slipped by since you stood victorious in the dim glow of Viridian Gym, watching Giovanni vanish into the shadows, his dreams of Pokémon domination shattered. The Kanto region has settled into a fragile peace, gym leaders rebuilding their teams, wild Pokémon roaming freer under clearer skies. But whispers of unrest stir beyond the familiar horizon, across the sea to the west, where an ancient land awaits your return as a seasoned trainer. In our world, that horizon expanded dramatically in 1999, when Nintendo unveiled Pokémon Gold and Silver for the Game Boy Color. These weren't mere sequels, they were a bold evolution, bursting with color on screens that had known only monochrome greens and blacks. Released first in Japan on November 21st, then sweeping globally into the new millennium, they doubled the known Pokémon world overnight, introducing 100 new species and mechanics that forever changed how we chased, raised, and battled these creatures. But Gold and Silver didn't just build on Kanto, they leaped westward to Johto, a region where towering pagodas pierce misty mountains, cherry blossoms drift over serene lakes, and traditions etched in stone whisper of Pokémon, revered as guardians since time immemorial. You awaken in New Bark Town, the salty breeze from the nearby sea mingling with the earthy scent of fresh grass. Professor Elm, a gentle soul, with wire-rimmed glasses and a lab coat perpetually dusted in Pokeball polish, entrusts you with your first Johto starter. Chikorita, the leafy bay Pokémon, curls trustingly in your arms, its vine tail swaying like a promise of growth. Or perhaps Cyndaquil flickers its hidden back flames, a quiet ember ready to blaze while Totodile snaps playfully with jaws that hint at the rivers it was born to conquer. Elm's voice trembles with urgency as he sends you forth, not just to collect badges, but to unravel a theft in his lab, a Cyndaquil snatched by a boy in a red cap who dashes off into the dusk. Johto unfolds like a living tapestry of the past meeting the present. It's Kanto's western neighbour, connected by a rugged land bridge you can cross late in your journey, but steeped in its own soul. Here, Pokémon aren't just caught, they're bred in the warm sands of daycare centres near Route 34, where eggs hatch into offspring, inheriting moves and traits from their parents, turning random encounters into legacies you craft yourself. Imagine the thrill of that first wiggle, the shell cracking to reveal a Pichu that knows Volt Tackle, a secret passed down through generations, or a Dratini shimmering with potential coiled in its azure scales. And then the world shifts with the sun. Gold and Silver introduced the day-night cycle, your Game Boy's internal clock ticking in real time. Dawn breaks with Hoothoots hooting softly from shadowed branches, their red eyes piercing the fog. Midday brings Pidgeyflocks wheeling overhead, while evenings summon nocturnal hunters like Murkrow, cawing omens from crooked beaks. Your Pokegear radio crackles with hourly forecasts, berries ripening on wild trees at precise times, ghost types haunting Sprout Tower only after sunset. It made every step feel alive, the region breathing around you, pulling you deeper into its rhythm. But the rarest jewels in this expanded realm? Shiny Pokémon, those elusive variants glinting with unnatural hues, a red Gyarados thrashing in the Lake of Rage, its scales like molten ruby under storm clouds, or a golden Ho-Oh soaring eternally absent until you prove worthy. with odds steeper than 1 in 86,000. Encountering one felt like destiny rewritten. A flash of colour in a monochrome hunt that had you scouring routes for hours, heart pounding with every wild battle. Your path winds through Violet City, where Faulkner's airborne Pidgeotto tests your grounded resolve in the high-vaulted gym. Azalea Town's Kurt crafts Pokeballs from apricorn trees, their wooden spheres infused with nature's grit. Goldenrod City's pulsing heart offers the radio tower, buzzing with contests and trades, while the underground tunnels echo with the clink of coins from obsessive collectors. Tradition pulses strongest in Ecruteak City, twin towers standing sentinel over dance theatres, where kimono girls summon spectral flames, at their elegant steps evoking Johto's reverence for the unseen. As badges mount, 7 by the time you scale Olivine Lighthouse, its beacon sweeping the sea like a lonely heartbeat, the real threat emerges. Team Rocket resurges, ghosts of Kanto's syndicate infiltrating the radio tower, their grunts sneering about unfinished business. You dismantle them floor by floor, radio static giving way to your Pokemon's triumphant cries, until Archer, Proton and the rest scatter once more. Yet Giovanni lingers as a spectre, his influence a shadow you chase across regions. Crossing into Kanto feels like coming home to a transformed world. Gym leaders greet you as equals now, their teams tougher, infused with Johto's gifts. Lieutenant Surge's Raichu crackles with newfound fury, Erika's Bellossom sways in hypnotic rhythms. Our victory at the Indigo Plateau crowns you champion, Lance's Dragonite falling before Elm declares your triumph. But the true summit beckons, Mount Silver, snow-lashed peaks, where a silent figure in black awaits. Red himself, your legendary predecessor, his Pikachu scarred from battles won and worlds saved. Defeating him cements your place among immortals. Pikachu's Thunderbolt fading into the blizzard as the credits roll. Crystal arrived in 2000, refining this saga with animation flourishes and Suicune's ethereal pursuit. The Northern Wind Pokémon, gliding like mist, testing your heart across Johto's wilds. These games weren't just expansions. They redefined Pokémon as a living legacy. Breeding chains that spanned cartridges, shinies hunted in the dead of night, days bleeding into nights that mirrored our own. Yet amid Ecruteak's ancient spires, a charred ruin looms, its collapsed frame birthing legends of beasts awakened in fury. What scorched the burned tower, and what beasts stir in its smouldering depths? That's the myth we'll unravel next in Chapter 10, the myth of the burned tower. Before we dive deeper into this incredible journey, I'm curious, where in the world are you watching this from? Drop a comment below and let our global community know. And if you're finding this as mind-blowing as I am, hit that like button to help more people discover this story. Nestled at the heart of Johto lies Ecruteak City, where the air hums with echoes of ancient rituals and the faint chime of unseen bells carried on the wind. This is a place where tradition isn't just preserved, it's alive, woven into the very stones of its dance theatres and the shadowed spires that pierce the sky. Those twin towers stand as silent sentinels, their origins lost to time, but their legends whispered by every elder in the region. The brass tower, once a gleaming marvel of burnished metal said to rival the heavens, drew the eye of the divine. Legend holds that Ho-Oh, the radiant phoenix of rainbows and rebirth, chose it as a perch, its massive wings folding over the structure like a protective shroud. Below, in the tower's depths, 3 nameless Pokémon slumbered peacefully, beings of pure elemental fury, untouched by human hands. They were guardians in their own right, embodiments of thunder, flame and cascade, their presence a promise of balance in Johto's fragile harmony. But harmony shattered one fateful night when lightning cleaved the sky, was igniting the brass tower in a blaze that devoured everything. Flames roared upward, twisting the metal into grotesque shapes, while thick smoke choked the stars. The 3 Pokémon inside perished in the inferno, their cries swallowed by the crackling pyre. Ecruteak's people watched in horror as the tower crumbled, reduced to a charred skeleton that still stands today, known forever as the Burned Tower. The loss rippled through the land, a wound that seemed beyond mending, leaving Johto shrouded in grief and the acrid scent of ashes that lingered for months. Yet from devastation came miracle. Ho-Oh, witnessing the tragedy from afar, descended in a blaze of iridescent light, its feathers scattering prismatic sparks across the ruins. Touched by the purity of the fallen Pokemon's spirits, the Phoenix channeled its boundless power, breathing life back into the ashes. The Thunder Beast rose first as Raikou, its sleek form crackling with electric fury, eyes glowing like stormlit sapphires, forever roaming Johto's plains in restless pursuit of lightning's thrill. Then Entei erupted, a lion of volcanic might, mane aflame with unquenchable fire, its roar shaking the earth as it bounded into the mountains. Last came Suicune, the north wind incarnate, its crystalline body shimmering with purifying waters, gliding gracefully to cleanse the scars of calamity wherever it treads. These three, now the legendary beasts, became eternal wanderers, their resurrection a testament to Ho-Oh's grace. They dash across Johto unseen, apparitions sighted only by the worthy, trainers whose hearts echo the beast's untamed freedom. Raikou's bolts illuminate midnight thunderstorms, and Entei's heat warps the air in volcanic trails, and Suicune's aurora-like tail trails mist that heals polluted rivers. Together they embody the cycle of destruction and renewal, a living reminder that even in loss, Johto's spirit endures. Across the city looms the bell tower, pristine twin to the burned one, its slender form clad in tin that gleams under moonlight. Here, Ho-Oh makes its true home now, ascending only for those proven pure of heart. But the tower's lore contrasts sharply with another guardian's tale, one of shadow and seclusion. Lugia, the diving dragon of the sea, once shared the skies with Ho-Oh as yin to its yang, silver wings slicing through tempests to calm raging oceans. Where Ho-Oh soars in fiery rebirth, Lugia dives into abyssal depths, its psychic cries summoning whirlpools that guard hidden truths. Disturbed by humanity's growing discord, the fires, the greed, the endless strife, Lugia fled the towers long ago. It sought solace in the churning maelstroms of the Whirl Islands, far off Johto's eastern coast, where waves crash eternally against jagged cliffs. There, in a cavernous lair deep beneath the frothing seas, Lugia slumbers in isolation, its immense body coiled around pearls of psychic energy. Legends warn that awakening it unleashes apocalyptic gales, tsunamis that could swallow coasts whole. Fishermen speak of silver shadows in the foam, and divers who venture too close emerge babbling of pressure that crushes souls. Lugia waits, a sentinel of silence, intervening only when the seas themselves cry for mercy. These myths pulse through Ekritique like a heartbeat, drawing pilgrims to the burned tower's ruins in hopes of glimpsing the beast's fleeting forms. Kimono girls perform sacred dances under lantern light, their fans mimicking Suicune's grace, while sages recount the fire's night with voices heavy as incense smoke. Johto's lore isn't mere story, it's a warning, a celebration, a map to the divine forces that shaped the land before any trainer set foot here. As you wander Johto's mist-shrouded paths, these tales pull you deeper into its soul, hinting at greater challenges that test not just your Pokémon, but your very resolve. And that brings us toward Chapter 11, the summit of Mount Silver, where the ultimate enigma awaits amid perpetual snows and whispers of a silent champion who conquered it all. From the smouldering ashes of Ekrutique's ancient towers, where the cries of legendary beasts once echoed into legend, your path through Johto twists towards shadows far more contemporary and insidious. 3 years have passed since the fall of Giovanni in distant Kanto, and Team Rocket, that fractured syndicate of black uniforms and ruthless ambition, stirs once more without their iron-fisted leader to guide them. Desperation fuels their revival, a ragtag coalition of executives grasping for relevance in a world that has moved on. You press northward from the dance of ghosts in the bell tower, your team hardened by trials across Johto's misty valleys and sun-dappled routes. Whispers reach you first in Azalea Town, where grunts tamper with the sacred slowpoke well, harvesting tales for profit in a grim echo of their old smuggling rings. You dive into the damp caverns, the air thick with the salty tang of underground pools, and shatter their operation, freeing the dazed slowpoke as they float serenely back to the surface. But this is no isolated scheme. Their web spans the region, leaderless yet relentless. The trail leads to the churning fury of Lake of Rage, where the moonlit waters boil under a perpetual storm. Red Gyarados thrash in unnatural rage, their scales gleaming like fresh blood under the thunderheads, a mutation born of rocket experiments gone awry. You confront the executive petrel here, his voice laced with frantic bravado, but your Pokémon cut through the chaos, restoring calm to the lake's depths. From the fallen grunt's radio, coordinates crackle. Mahogany Town, their hidden lair in the shadowed warehouse by the shore. Pushing through the ice-choked paths of Route 44, as the chill bites at your skin as you infiltrate the rocket base beneath the gym. Lance, the Dragon Master himself, allies with you in this moment, his Charizard's flames illuminating the sterile corridors lined with computers humming failed revival plans. You navigate conveyor belts slick with frost, battling waves of grunts whose loyalty frays without Giovanni's shadow looming. At the heart, the executive Proton sneers about their new era, but your resolve crushes their radio jamming device, severing their grip on the region. Yet their ambition peaks in Goldenrod City, the gleaming metropolis where the radio tower pierces the sky like a defiant spire. Disguised as the director, the executive, Ariana unleashes a torrent of Ekans and Arbok in the broadcasting halls, static crackling through the air as their takeover broadcast declares a rocket renaissance. You climb the tower's heights, floor by floor the city sprawl, twinkling below like a sea of forgotten stars. Executives Archer, Proton and Ariana fall, one by one, their plans unravelling in a symphony of Pokeball releases and desperate commands. In the finale, you unmask their facade, reclaiming the airways and scattering the remnants. With Team Rocket's revival thwarted, Johto bows before you as champion, the Elite Four humbled in the Indigo Plateau's grand arena. But your triumph doesn't end there. The Professor's call beckons you eastward, across the sea to Kanto, the land of your unspoken origins, now 3 years wiser and forever changed. You step onto the familiar shores of Kanto, the salty breeze carrying scents of Pallet Town's rolling hills. Vermilion City's port bustles anew, free of rocket blockades. The gyms, once shadowed by Giovanni's influence, stand revitalized. Lieutenant Surge drills his electric troops in the power plant's glow. Erica tends her fragrant Celadon greenhouses, vines whispering secrets. Koga's ninja arts flicker in Fuchsia's misty dojo. Even Blaine's Cinnabar volcano laboratory hums with fresh research, the island's lava flows cooled by time. Viridian Gym gleams under new stewardship, its leader Blue, your old rival, now tempered by rivalry's forge, awaits with a smirk and a sharpened team. You conquer the circuit anew, badges glinting in your case like badges of a bygone era revisited. The Pokémon League beckons once more, the Elite Four evolved, their strategies deepened by years apart. Lorelei's icy barrage, Bruno's raw might, Agatha's spectral haunts, Lance's draconic fury, each yields to your mastery, culminating in a rematch that cements your legacy across 2 realms. But Kanto's true gift lies in its quiet evolutions. Saffron's Mr. Psychic rewards your diligence with the storage system's expansion, a nod to bonds unbroken. The power plant pulses with life, Zapdos's electric silhouette, a fleeting myth in the thunder. Roots once fraught with fear, now bloom with hidden treasures. Moonstones in Mount Moon's echoing caves. Rare candies in Cerulean Cave's abyssal glow, where Mewtwo's presence lingers like a half-remembered dream. Sated by Kanto's nostalgic embrace, you return to Johto's peaks, drawn by rumours of a solitary figure atop Mount Silver. The mountain rears like a jagged crown against the northern sky, as its slopes lashed by relentless blizzards. You ascend through howling winds, boots crunching eternal snow, the air thinning to a razor edge. Caves twist inward, home to feral beasts. Lapras gliding silent lakes, Donphan charging powder drifts. Each step tests your team, items scarce, the cold seeping into bones as you emerge onto the summit plateau. There, silhouetted against the aurora-veiled heavens, stands Red, the boy from Pallet, silent saviour of Kanto 3 years prior, his cap shadowing eyes that burn with unspoken challenge. No words pass, his Pikachu crackles at his side, a veteran scarred by legend. This is no ordinary duel. Red's roster pulses with the pinnacle of power. Pikachu, the eternal mascot. Espeon and Snorlax, titans of psychic slumber. Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, the starter trinity fully realised. And the elusive Lapras, bridging worlds. The battle unfolds in hushed fury, snow swirling like confetti for a coronation. Red's commands are minimal. Gestures sharp as his team's onslaught, hyper beams scorching the frost, earthquake fissures cracking stone. Your Pokémon rise, countering level 50 behemoths with strategies forged across regions. Victory comes not in shouts, but in the quiet slump of Pikachu's ears. Red's nod of respect as he turns, vanishing into the mist. In this frozen apex, the torch passes definitively. The silent champion of Generation 1 yields to Johto's heir, bridging Kanto's dawn to Johto's twilight in the Pokémon timeline's fragile chain. You've not just beaten Rockets or gyms, you've claimed the mantle of the world's greatest. As the winds whisper of new horizons beyond these peaks, you'll soon discover a shift in the elements that redefines the very balance of land and sea. Stay with me for Chapter 12, A Shift in the Elements. With the dust still settling from your clash atop Mount Silver, and the shadows of Team Rocket scattered once more across Kanto and Johto, the Pokémon world didn't stand still. In the real world, Nintendo unveiled a technological marvel that would redefine handheld gaming forever. The Game Boy Advance, launched in Japan in March of 2001, bringing 32-bit power to your palm. This wasn't just an upgrade, it was a revolution. Picture the Game Boy Color's modest palette of 56 shades, giving way to 32,768 vibrant hues bursting across a wider, sharper screen. The processor hummed 5 times faster, memory doubled, and suddenly, our developers could dream bigger. No more cramped monochrome battles or faded sprites. The Advance's capabilities unlocked lush tropical landscapes, rippling oceans, and Pokémon that shimmered with lifelike detail. It paved the way for mechanics that demanded this power. Double battles, where 2 Pokémon per side clashed in choreographed chaos, requiring the screen real estate and speed to track every move without stutter. Abilities entered the fray too. Innate traits like a Pokémon's blaze igniting fiercer attacks when weakened, or Levitate shrugging off ground assaults entirely. And nature's? Those subtle personality quirks that twisted stats ever so slightly, adamant for offense, timid for speed, adding layers of strategy that turned every capture into a lifelong commitment. By November of 2002, these innovations crystallized in Pokémon Ruby and Sapphire, the dawn of Generation 3. Japan felt the quake first, with the West following in March of 2003. You step off the ferry into Hoenn, a sprawling archipelago of emerald isles and azure seas, drawing deep inspiration from Japan's own island geography. Think Kyushu's volcanic spine and Okinawa's coral fringes, but amplified into a perfect harmony of land and water. 168 new Pokémon emerge from this cradle, from the gecko-like Trico scaling vines with effortless grace, to Torchic's fledgling flames hatching amid humid breezes, and Mudkip's finned resilience, navigating flooded paths. Hoenn pulses with elemental tension, 78% water coverage on the map, demanding new surfing and later diving mechanics to plumb sunken depths. Or where ancient relics whisper of forgotten epochs, the region unfolds like a living mosaic. Rustborough's industrial gleam contrasts Dewford's sandy seclusion, while Lavaridge's steaming hot springs bubble beside Fortree's airborne canopy village. Gym leaders guard badges themed around raw elements, rock-solid resolve, electric surges, fiery tempers, each trial a testament to Hoenn's precarious balance. Volcanoes loom over prairies, tsunamis threaten coastlines, and the Weather Institute brews storms that alter battles in real time, rain-boosting water moves, or harsh sunlight supercharging fire. This hardware leap didn't just enable prettier pixels. It birthed a world where nature itself became a character, volatile and alive. Yet beneath the sun-dappled waves and verdant peaks, a narrative pivot stirs. Gone are the mafia dons of Team Rocket, or scheming in silos and subways for profit and power. Hoenn introduces eco-terrorists cloaked in ideology. Team Magma, clad in crimson capes, driven to terraform the planet by awakening a primordial force to expand continents and banish the seas. Their rivals, Team Aqua in nautical blues, counter with zeal to flood the land entirely, submerging civilizations for an endless ocean utopia. Led by the fanatical Maxi and Archie, these factions aren't mere thieves. They're zealots, wielding legendaries like Gruden and Kyogre, beasts of cataclysmic scale, to reshape the world in their image of perfection. Your journey begins innocently, collecting stones in meteor-scarred craters, but soon spirals into averting apocalypse, diving into submarine lairs and scaling sky pillars where history's guardians stir. Emerald refined this symphony in 2004, blending Ruby and Sapphire's paths into a delta of double battles against both teams at once, fronted by the Dragon Master Wallace in a finale of fluid mastery. Hoenn's lore layers ancient myths atop modern peril. The primal duo slumbered eons ago, subdued by Rayquaza from the ozone layer, enforcer of equilibrium. Natures and abilities deepen every encounter, breeding ranches yield perfect partners, and the battle frontier tests eternal skill post-game. This generation remade the formula, proving Pokémon could evolve beyond Kanto's grid into fluid, colourful odysseys. As these elemental extremists push the planet to the brink, their colliding visions ignite a crisis that threatens to drown or desiccate Hoenn entirely. Next time, in the Hoenn climate crisis, you'll witness the escalating chaos firsthand, as the Game Boy Advance breathes new life into Pokémon. With its dazzling colours and the thrill of double battles, you find yourself washed ashore on the sun-drenched beaches of Hoenn, a sprawling archipelago of volcanic peaks, coral reefs, and mist-shrouded craters that mirror the rugged contours of Japan's Kyushu Island. Little do you know, this paradise is on the brink of unravelling, gripped by a climate crisis fueled by two fanatical factions locked in a brutal turf war that threatens to drown or scorch the entire region. Team Magma, clad in their fiery red hoods and obsessed with terrestrial supremacy, emerges first from the shadows of Mount Chimney's sulphurous fumes. Led by the cold, calculating Maxi, a bespectacled visionary with a god complex, they chant praises to Gruden, the primal Earthshaker, whose awakening they believe will expand the landmasses and banish the seas forever. Across the waves, their rivals in Team Aqua strike back with equal ferocity, their blue bandanas soaked in saltwater ambition under the command of Archie, a burly pirate with wild hair and a grudge against overpopulation. He worships Kyogre, the Leviathan of the deep, convinced that flooding the world will create boundless oceans for Pokémon to thrive in isolation from humanity. What starts as skirmishes over submarine hideouts and weather institutes escalates into full-scale naval blockades and aerial assaults, with Magma's balloon fleet clashing against Aqua's submersible armada right in the heart of Hoenn's shipping lanes. You, the young trainer from Little Root Town, stumble into this powder keg early on. Your starter Pokémon, Trico's vines whipping through humid air, Torchic's embers flickering against relentless downpours, or Mudkip's fins slicing through tidal surges, barely enough to fend off their grunts swarming Rustborough City's gyms and Dewford's foggy shores. Magma raids the Devon Corporation for a submarine blueprint, while Aqua seizes a precious scanner from Slateport's research labs, each side edging closer to their forbidden relics. The red orb and the blue orb, ancient gems pulsing with primordial energy, long hidden in Hoenn's deepest caverns and stolen from oblivious guardians. Maxie's plan crystallizes atop Mount Pyre, that eerie graveyard island where spirits of fallen Pokémon whisper through cracked tombstones. He snatches the blue orb not for his own legend, but to sabotage Aqua, though his true prize awaits in the sealed chamber of Mount Chimney, where magma bubbles like the planet's boiling heart. Meanwhile, Archie dives into the abandoned ship's rusted bowels and the volcanic depths of Sutopolis's Cave of Origin, claiming the red orb to thwart Magma's dreams. Their misguided rituals unfold in tandem. Maxie channels the red orb's crimson glow into Groudon's slumbering form beneath the earth, its eyes snapping open with a roar that splits the ground like overripe fruit. Archie submerges the blue orb into Kyogre's abyssal lair, awakening the beast in a frenzy of crashing waves that swallow coastal villages whole. The skies darken instantly, Hoenn's weather twisting into apocalyptic fury. Groudon's drought unleashes blistering suns that crack the soil from Petalburg Woods to Fortree City's treetops, rivers shrinking to muddy scars, while cacti sprout unnaturally across Falabor's fields. Kyogre counters with biblical deluges, hailstones the size of Pokeballs, pummeling Morville circuits, and tsunamis carving new bays into Pacifid log towns' floating homes. Lightning storms rage without end over Evergrande City's championship stadium. Hailberries meteor falls in ice, and dust devils whip through Route 112's grasslands, turning verdant farms into barren wastelands. Pokémon flee in panic. Wingull flocks blot out the sun. Camerupt stampedes trigger landslides, and Sharpedopods shred fishing boats in the frothing swells. The region fractures. Gym leaders like Roxanne barricading Rusturf Tunnel against floods and Winona's Altaria soaring through tornadoes to deliver desperate warnings. In the chaos of Ruby and Sapphire, your path splits. You thwart one team only for the other to unleash hell. But it's the enhanced saga of Emerald that reveals the full catastrophe. Both legends rampage unchecked, their primal clash summoning a super ancient storm that rends the ozone with ruby thunderbolts and sapphire gales. Wallace, Sutopolis's enigmatic dragon tamer, urges you onward through the maelstrom to the Sky Pillar, that lofty spire piercing the clouds off Route 131, accessible only when the god's fury aligns the stars. Scaling its crumbling ledges amid howling winds, you confront the truth. Neither land nor sea can dominate without harmony. There, amid petrified bones of forgotten serpents, Rayquaza stirs from eons of meditation, the sky dragon, whose emerald scales gleam like a verdant aurora. No orbs needed, your presence, the bonds forged through 8 badges and countless trials, calls it forth. It megaphones a deafening cry, hurtling downward to quell Groudon and Kyogre, reverting them to ruby and sapphire forms, and scattering the orb's corruptive power. The storms part, sunlight dappling the waves once more, balance restored as Team Magma and Aqua slink into irrelevance, their leaders humbled by nature's rebuke. This fragile peace in Hoenn sets the stage for seismic shifts in how trainers wage war. As we turn to Chapter 14, the physical and the special, where the very mechanics of battle get split wide open in ways that redefine every punch, every flame, every clash you'll ever command, As the orb's cataclysmic glow faded in Hoenn's skies, Rayquaza's roar echoing into legend, the Pokémon world caught its breath. But across the Pacific, in the bustling labs of Game Freak, developers were already sketching blueprints for something far more profound than any primal clash. 2006 marked a turning point, not just for trainers, but for the very device cradled in their hands. Nintendo launched the DS, a sleek dual-screen marvel with touch-sensitive glass and a microphone that whispered possibilities into the ether. Gone were the Game Boy Advance's pixelated confines. This was a handheld that folded secrets between its screens, backwards compatible yet boldly forward, bridging old cartridges with new horizons. Pokémon Diamond and Pearl arrived that September in Japan, slicing through the autumn air like a fresh icicle, their covers glinting with crystalline facets that hinted at the frosted realms within. You could feel the shift immediately. The dual screens layered maps over battles, stats flickering alive in ways that GBA's monochrome glow could only dream of. But the true quake rattled the core of every skirmish. The physical and special split. For years, moves bowed to rigid type decrees. Fire always special. Fighting forever physical. A system that chained Pokémon to arbitrary fates. Your burly Machamp, fists like anvils, wasted away, hurling ethereal flames because Fire Punch was doomed to special damage, ignoring its brute bulk. Delicate psychics like Alakazam flailed with physical barrages that barely grazed foes, their minds dulled by the mismatch. No longer. Generation 4 redrew the battle lines with surgical precision. Each move now claimed its nature outright, physical for those that struck flesh, special for waves of arcane force. Flare Blitz became a roaring inferno for Charizard's wings, channeling raw power through contact. Ice Beam, that shimmering lance, stayed the domain of special sweepers like Glaceon, piercing from afar without a touch. Suddenly, attack and special attack stats pulled equal weight. Defenses mirrored the assault. Trainers scrambled to rethink arsenals. Physical waterfall on a bulky Swampert, special Draco Meteor from a frail Dragonite. The meta fractured and reformed, birthing legends like physical Garchomp slicing through tears, or special Infernape dancing unpredictably. Battles deepened into chess matches, where type matchups tangled with stat spreads, and natures honed to fractions, and EVs sculpted like marble. This split didn't just tweak the game, it shattered the old world, forging competitive Pokémon into an art of infinite counters. Nestled within this mechanical renaissance lay Sinnoh, a realm carved from Japan's northern spine, where perpetual snowcloaks jagged peaks and ancient glaciers whisper of Genesis. Mount Coronet pierces the heavens like a colossal spear, its caverns echoing with the myths of creation itself. Here, the universe unfurled from nothingness. Arceus, the alpha Pokémon, birthed time through Dialga's unyielding gears, space via Palkia's boundless voids, and spirit in the Lake Guardians. Uxie of knowledge, Mesprit of emotion, Azelf of will. Lakes, verity, acuity, and valor cradle these deities in glassy abysses, their waters rippling with primordial truths. Her twin-leaf town slumbers under wintry veils, where dawn breaks on barefoot treks through Route 201's crisp grass. Your starter, perhaps the steadfast Turtwig, fiery Chimchar, or watery Piplup, emerging from Professor Rowan's lab like a spark in the frost. Sinnoh's chill seeps into every path. Auraberg's mines grind with coal dust. Snowpoint Temple seals Regigigas in icy vaults untouched for eons. Celestic Town hoards ruins etched with Dialga and Palkia's forms. Cyrus of Team Galactic scheming to unmake the chaos of emotion for his sterile new universe. Yet amid the blizzards, bonds warm the soul, rival Barry's impulsive dashes, the Elite Four's stoic trials, and post-game pilgrimages to Stark Mountain's roaring heat. Platinum refined this frostbitten epic in 2008, weaving darker threads into the fabric, but Diamond and Pearl alone etched Sinnoh as the land where myths walk among mortals. And then, the world connected. For the first time, global trading bloomed via Wi-Fi, a ethereal network stitching players across continents. The global trade station in Jubilife City's TV dome pulsed with life. Post a Tangela, snag a Tropius from Texas, swap a Bidoof for a Beldum from Brazil. Friends' codes forged alliances, battles raged over oceans, events like the enigmatic Shaman distributions drawing millions online. No longer isolated cartridges, Pokémon became a shared dream, your Spiritomb haunting a stranger's team in Sydney while a foreign Gligar graces your roster. This invisible web mirrored Sinnoh's cosmic weave, time and space collapsing into trades that spanned the globe. As Galactic's ambitions crest toward shattering realities themselves, her fractures begin to spiderweb through the veil between worlds, hinting at distortions that warp perception and summon the unfathomable. That physical special split transformed every clash between trainers and their Pokémon into a symphony of strategy, where a move's power now hinged on the body or the mind behind it. But as you venture deeper into the Sinnoh region, those refined battles become mere preludes to a cataclysm threatening existence itself. Cyrus, the enigmatic leader of Team Galactic, harbours a vision so cold it chills the stars. He sees human emotion, joy, sorrow, the messy spark we call spirit, as the root of all suffering. His plan? To unmake the universe entirely, stripping away that chaos to birth a perfect, emotionless world of his own design. Team Galactic's grunts swarm the land like shadows, commandeering lakes and shrines, all in service to this void-born dream. They covet the lake guardians, Azel for willpower, Mesprit for emotion, Uxie for knowledge, ancient beings said to have bestowed those gifts upon humanity eons ago. Cyrus captures them one by one, their glassy forms dimming in his machines, fueling orbs of raw power that pulse with stolen essence. You race across Sinnoh's misty peaks and frozen tundras, dismantling his operations at every turn. Mount Coronet looms eternal, its caverns whispering myths of creation. At its heart rises the Spear Pillar, a jagged altar piercing the heavens, where legends say the world's fabric was first woven. Cyrus ascends there, under a fractured sky, his red hair stark against the gathering storm. He activates the Guardian's power, summoning the Lords of Time and Space themselves. Dialga erupts first, its diamond-hard body gleaming like forged eternity, roaring as blue chains of temporal energy lash the air. Time warps around it. Seconds stretch into agonizing eternities, then snap back in violent bursts. Moments later, Palkia surges forth, its pearl-pink scales shimmering with spatial might, claws rending reality like wet paper. Space folds and twists. Pillars crumble into impossible geometries. Horizons bend inward, swallowing the horizon whole. The two titans clash in primal fury, Dialga's roar of time clashing against Palkia's spatial rend, tearing gashes in the veil between dimensions. The spear pillar buckles, gravity inverts, and the stars above flicker as if the universe itself recoils. Cyrus stands triumphant amid the maelstrom, his voice cutting through the thunder. This, he declares, as is the dawn of perfection. No spirit, no pain, just crystalline order. But the rupture he's unleashed awakens something far more primal. From a crimson rift in the fractured sky plummets Giratina, the renegade Pokémon, its ghostly wings blotting out the chaos. Banished long ago to the distortion world for its violent nature, this third of the creation trio embodies antimatter, the inverted shadow of our reality. Its red-black form defies all logic, gravity pulling sideways, up becoming down. With a guttural shriek that echoes through bones, Giratina seizes Cyrus in its jagged maw, dragging him screaming into the void. The portal snaps shut, leaving you alone on the trembling pillar as the clash of Dialga and Palkia threatens to collapse both worlds. In Pokémon Platinum, this moment deepens into full surreal horror. And you pursue them through that crimson tear, tumbling into the distortion world, a gravity-defying labyrinth where platforms float untethered, walls shift like liquid, and the air hums with reversed physics. Colours invert, black skies bleed purple, and paths loop in Mobius madness. No Pokémon centers here, no familiar ground beneath your feet. Shadows writhe with independent life, and puzzles demand you flip perspectives, walking on ceilings, riding warped elevators that defy up and down. Cyrus, unbowed even in exile, presses his ritual further, commanding a loyal Weevil and Honchkrow from his perch on a floating throne. But Giratina's realm resists him, its master lurking in the depths. You navigate this antimatter nightmare step by treacherous step, battling twisted reflections of galactic commanders. The air grows thick with dissonance, every breath echoing backward. At the core, Giratina awaits in its origin form, wings spread like shattered mirrors, eyes burning with otherworldly rage. Defeating it stabilizes the chaos, freeing Dialga and Palkia to retreat to their shrines. Cyrus vanishes deeper into the distortion, his dream shattered, but his fanaticism unbroken. Whispers hint he endures in that eternal limbo. Back in the waking world, Sinnoh heals, but the scars linger in the myths. The creation trio, Dialga, Palkia, Giratina, stand as eternal sentinels, their balance fragile as a held breath. Arceus, the alpha Pokémon, watches from the dawn of time, having birthed them to shape reality from nothingness. Team Galactic's folly exposed the peril of tampering with such forces, reminding every trainer that some pillars hold up more than mountains. And as the dust settles on Sinnoh's upheaved skies, a new region beckons with promises of truth and ideals clashing in ways that demand a complete reset of everything you thought you knew. Up next, Chapter 16, A Complete Reset. As the tears in reality sealed themselves at Spear Pillar, and Dialga and Palkia's roars faded into Sinnoh's starry nights, the Pokémon world settled into an uneasy peace. But for Game Freak, the real storm was brewing in their Kyoto studios. Years slipped by in our timeline, from the Nintendo DS's glittering launch in 2006 to a daring pivot in 2010, when Black and White arrived not as an evolution, but as a complete reset. This fifth generation wasn't content to build on the foundations of Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, or Sinnoh. It scorched the earth and planted fresh seeds, forcing every trainer to confront the wilds of a brand new land without the crutch of old favourites. Picture the developers huddled over sketches late into the night, Junichi Masuda at the helm, whispering about reinvention. They'd crafted regions drawn from Japan's own backyard, until now. Kanto echoing Tokyo's bustle, Johto's temples mirroring Kansai's ancient hills, Hoenn's coasts channeling Kyushu's volcanic shores, Sinnoh's peaks nodding to Hokkaido's rugged north. But Unova shattered that mould, the first region ripped straight from beyond Japan's borders, inspired by the throbbing heart of New York City in the United States. Skyscrapers pierced the clouds like Castelia City's gleaming towers, bridges arched over misty rivers, just as Sky Arrow spanned Unova's waterways. And the grit of urban sprawl bled into the neon-lit streets, where trainers dodged double-decker buses and street performers. Even the Liberty Garden echoed Lady Liberty's watchful gaze, a beacon amid the concrete jungle, while the rolling farmlands of rural Unova evoked upstate New York's quiet expanses, dotted with barns and wind-swept plains, where herds of buffalons charged like escaped livestock. This wasn't mere homage, it was a cultural leap, born from Game Freak's travels abroad, Masuda soaking in Manhattan's chaos during research trips, channeling the city's melting pot into a region where English words peppered the lexicon, subway, gear, plasma, blending seamlessly with Pokémon's universal tongue. Unova sprawled across the DS screen in crisp sprites, its tubular subway lines snaking underground, its Ferris wheels spinning lazily at the edge of Nimbasa City, a carnival of lights and cheers that mask deeper shadows. From the opulent elegance of Nuvema Town's starting fields, where Snivy, Tepig, and Oshawott awaited their fateful choices, to the fog-shrouded pinnacles of Twist Mountain, every path pulsed with American ambition. Wide boulevards for sprinting, high rises begging to be climbed, deserts mimicking Nevada's dust bowls in the twisted expanse of desert resort. Yet the true audacity lay in the Pokédex itself, a controversial gut punch that divided fans like a thunderbolt to the chest. For the first time, Black and White locked away every one of the 493 Pokémon from prior generations, confining them to the shadows until the post-game beckoned. No Charizard scorching roots, and no Gyarados terrorizing lakes, just 156 pristine new species, each designed to stand alone, from the spectral Litwick flickering in haunted lanterns, to the majestic Volcarona emerging from desert sands like a sun god reborn. Critics howled at the restriction, calling it a betrayal of the collection frenzy that defined Pokémon since Red and Green's 1996 debut, but defenders hailed it as genius, a soft reboot forcing purity, making every encounter feel revolutionary, every gym badge earned on unfamiliar turf. It mirrored Unova's ethos of new beginnings, where the national Pokédex stayed dormant until you'd conquered the region's heart, liberating legends like Zekrom and Reshiram only after proving your worth. That ethos seeped into the story like ink through water, elevating Pokémon's narrative to uncharted moral depths. No longer simple villainy like Team Rocket's thefts or Galactic's nihilism. Black and White dared to question the very soul of training. Enter N, the enigmatic king of Team Plasma, his green hair wild as his ideals, surrounded by Pokémon who spoke to him in their own tongues, convinced that capture was slavery, a chain binding wild spirits to human whims. His speeches echoed through Unova's halls, challenging you, the player, with piercing questions. Why do we battle? Are Pokeballs prisons or partnerships? Getsis, his shadowy father figure, twisted those ideals into a facade for conquest, wielding a Hydra-like Hydreigon while preaching liberation, his castle looming in the frozen wastes of Giant Chasm like a throne of lies. You traverse this fractured world, home from the opulent sports complexes of Nimbasa, where Elisa's electric fashions dazzled under spotlights, to the scholarly spires of Lacunosa Town, haunted by tales of the Shadow Triad's nocturnal raids. The 8 gyms tested not just strategy, but philosophy. Berg's bug galleries probing beauty in the grotesque, Skylar's aerial runways demanding faith in flight. And as Plasma's airships darkened the skies, releasing Pokémon en masse in a hypocritical bid for freedom, you uncovered the ethics at Pokémon's core, bonds forged in battle, or exploitation masked as friendship. Black and White didn't shy from ambiguity. N's dragon soared as both friend and foe, his heartbreak palpable when ideals clashed with truth, leaving you to ponder if victory meant domination or understanding. This reset rippled outward, Black 2 and White 2 arriving in 2012 as sequels within the region, 2 years after the originals in lore, expanding Unova's map with Pokémon World Tournament spectacles and hidden relics. But the blueprint was set, a franchise reborn, unafraid to evolve. The controversies fueled debates that still simmer today, proving Game Freak's gamble paid off in a generation that forced us all to see Pokémon through fresh eyes. But lingering in Unova's shadows are the dragons that ignited it all, pulling you deeper into the clash of truth, ideals, and the Unova dragon. Stick around for Chapter 17, where those scales tip into something truly primal. As Unova unfolded before you, a sprawling metropolis of steel skyscrapers piercing the skyline of Castelia City, and vast plains where herds of wild Pokémon roamed free under endless blue skies, a radical voice began to echo through its streets. Team Plasma emerged from the shadows, cloaked in dark uniforms, emblazoned with a bold P symbol, preaching a gospel of liberation. They declared that Pokémon were slaves, chained to Pokeballs by selfish trainers, and demanded their immediate release into the wild. Crowds gathered in Nimbasa City's amusement parks and Driftvale's dusty markets, mesmerized by their fiery speeches. "Free the Pokémon," they cried, "return them to their true homes." But beneath this noble facade lurked a chilling hypocrisy. While plasma grunts paraded stolen Pokémon as props for their rallies, their leaders hoarded legendary beasts in secret lairs, wielding them as weapons of control. Ghetsis, the shadowy kingpin with his piercing green eye and mane of wild white hair, orchestrated it all from the frozen peaks of Twist Mountain. He wasn't just a charismatic demagogue, he was a master manipulator, founding plasma on a twisted philosophy that humans and Pokémon could never coexist without domination. His followers shaved Aldino for profit and released weak Pokémon into peril, all while claiming moral superiority. You encounter them early, liberating Pokémon from unsuspecting trainers in a Cumula town, only to watch plasma vanish with the very creatures they summoned. Their goal wasn't freedom, it was supremacy. By separating humans from Pokémon, Plasma aimed to monopolize the world's most powerful beasts, ruling Unova unchallenged. At the heart of this deception stood En, their enigmatic figurehead, a young man with emerald hair and eyes that seemed to pierce souls. His story was one of profound tragedy, a boy born into isolation within the bowels of En's castle, a fortress hidden on an offshore island shrouded in perpetual mist. Ghetsis, his supposed father, raised him not with love, but as an experiment. Surrounded only by Pokémon from birth, wild ones captured and brought to him, En learned their language, their pains, their unspoken dreams. He heard the cries of a frail Darumaka abandoned in the snow, the joyful songs of Pidove flocks at dawn, the deep rumbles of Dradugun guarding their young. No human words tainted his world. Instead, Pokémon became his family, his truth. Ghetsis molded En into a puppet king, whispering that humans were cruel oppressors, that only he could bridge the divide. En's throne room echoed with the voices of hundreds of Pokémon, their forms swirling around him like living shadows. He believed his destiny was to create a utopia where Pokémon lived free, guided by his rule. Yet cracks formed as you, the player, crossed his path. In a Cumula, he released your starter Pokémon, urging it to speak its desires. Later, on the Sky Arrow Bridge at dusk, with the river glittering below, he challenged your ideals, his voice soft, yet fervent. Why do you battle? Do Pokémon truly wish to fight for you? En's purity made him dangerous. He wasn't evil, but a broken vessel for Ghetsis' ambition. Deeper still lay Unova's ancient secrets, myths etched into the ruins of Dragon Spiral Tower, where fog clung to crumbling stone pillars like forgotten breaths. 3,000 years ago, twin brothers waged a philosophical war that shattered the land. The elder sought truth through unyielding facts, the younger ideals through passionate dreams. They clashed atop the tower, each summoning the original dragon, a colossal being of pure white scales and boundless power, its wings blotting out the sun. In the fury of their battle, the dragon tore itself asunder, birthing two legends: Reshiram, the vast white Pokémon, embodiment of truth, with flames of pure knowledge roaring from its turbine tail, and Zekrom, the vast black Pokémon, champion of ideals, its electric bolts crackling like thunderous convictions. The brothers' conflict razed villages, scorched fields from Opelucid City's icy spires to Undella Bay's coral depths. Victory eluded them both. One brother perished, the other wandered broken, leaving the dragons dormant. Millennia passed, their legends whispered by sages in Lacunosa Town, where shadows of the Shadow Triad, Plasma's ninja enforcers, still lurked. Reshiram bonded with those who proved their truth unassailable, Zekrom with those whose ideals burned brightest. In black and white, your choices determined your dragon, black for Zekrom's ideals, white for Reshiram's truth. En sought both, but Ghetsis coveted them for conquest. The hypocrisy unraveled at the Pokémon League summit, where Looker, the international agent, exposed Plasma's schemes amid throngs of cheering fans. But the true reckoning came at Enn's castle. Rising like a jagged crown from the sea, its halls patrolled by the Shadow Triad's illusions. You storm the gates with Cheren and Bianca, battling through legions of grunts and their stolen Pokémon. Conkeldurr smashing walls, Liepard vanishing into smoke. Elevators grind upward past stained glass windows, depicting the dragon's schism, the air thick with salt and tension. At the pinnacle, Enn awaits, his throne backed by the frenzied chorus of his Pokémon army. He's awakened his dragon, Zekrom in black, Reshiram in white, its roar shaking the spires, eyes glowing with fanatical light. Ghetsis reveals his betrayal, discarding Enn as a tool, his voice dripping venom. You were never my son, just a means to hear the Pokémon's will. Enn, heartbroken, unleashes his fury. Your battle atop the castle is cataclysmic. Dragons clashing in gales of fire and lightning, the sky fracturing with each fusion flare and bolt strike. Victory shatters Enn's illusions. He questions his path, fleeing with his dragon to wander and reflect. Yet the siege continues. A Ghetsis summons Kyurem from the giant chasm's icy abyss, fusing it with the fallen dragon to birth the monstrous Black Kyurem or White Kyurem, a hybrid of frozen death. In the throne room's chaos, Hydreigon at his side, Ghetsis rants of his new empire. You dismantle him, Pokémon by Pokémon, until he crumples, defeated. Enn departs, seeking his own truth, leaving Unova scarred but hopeful. The dragons return to slumber, their war of ideals unresolved, echoing through Unova's winds. This clash of philosophies, truth versus ideals, mirrors Gen 5's bold gamble, forcing you to confront your own bonds with Pokémon amid a world weary of endless sequels. But Unova's tale didn't end there. Forces regrouped, old heroes returned, and Plasma evolved in ways that twisted the knife deeper. That brings us to Chapter 18, the first sequels, where Black 2 and White 2 ignite a powder keg of revenge and redemption you won't see coming. But just 2 years after the dust settled from Enn's clash with the dragons and Ghetsis' crumbling empire, Unova wasn't the same pristine land of ideals and truth you'd left behind. The streets of Castelia City buzzed with new construction, towering skyscrapers piercing the skyline where empty lots once stood, and the once forbidden plasma frigate now drifted harmlessly as a tourist exhibit off the coast of P2 Laboratory. Pokémon trainers roamed boulder paths, unlocking routes like Join Avenue and the Pokémon World Tournament that drew champions from distant regions. All because the world had moved on, reshaped by the echoes of that legendary battle. This wasn't a fresh start like Black and White promised. No. Game Freak shattered expectations in the real world by dropping Pokémon Black 2 and White 2 in June of 2012 in Japan, the franchise's very first direct sequels to core games. No remakes, no third versions, but true follow-ups, picking up right where the originals left off. A bold pivot after 16 years of paired releases and enhancements. Players returned as a new protagonist from Aspertia City, a humble southwestern town overlooking the ocean. But the map felt alive with evolution. New bridges spanned old rivers. The desert resort expanded into a vast expanse, hiding Relic Castle's deepest secrets, and even Nimbasa's amusement park gleamed with fresh rides under Elasa's electric glow. Wander through Route 4 now, and you'd spot Odino herds, replaced by sturdier Throw and Sork, sparring in the underbrush. While the tubular skyway from Icirus City whisked you to Twist Mountain's revitalized caves, echoing with the cries of new evolutions like Boldor rumbling through crystal veins, Unova pulsed with post-war renewal. The Pokémon League's hall stood taller, admitting Black 2 and White 2's version of Iris as its new champion, her Haxorus gleaming beside the ghosts of Alder and Lance. Gym leaders evolved too. Cheren traded his scholarly calm for a sterner edge in Aspertia, Roxy rocked the rock club scene in Burbank with her punk band Coughing Blasts, and Berg's artistic flair in Castelia now wove through galleries alive with Liavani silk. Yet beneath this veneer of progress, shadows stirred. Team Plasma hadn't vanished, it fractured into bitter remnants. The loyalists, still clinging to N's vision of harmony, scattered across the land in quiet hideouts, freeing Pokémon from neglectful trainers with whispered pleas. But Getsis, that venomous puppeteer, slithered back from exile with a splintered horde of radical zealots, their white cloaks stained with fury. No more pretenses of liberation. These plasmas hungered for domination, plotting to seize Kyurem from the giant chasm and plunge Unova into eternal winter, freezing the region under a dome of ice to remake it in their image. Kyurem loomed as the enigma at the heart of it all, a hollow shell unearthed from Unova's ancient myths, the last remnant of the original dragon that once split into Reshiram and Zekrom eons ago. Draconic legends whispered of this trio, born from truth, ideals, and the raw boundary they once guarded together. But Kyurem survived as a frigid husk, its glassy eyes vacant, her body an armoured sarcophagus of perpetual cold leaking from Lacunosa Town's fog-shrouded nights. Players first glimpsed it frozen in the giant chasm's depths, a colossal icicle prison shattered by Plasma's DNA splicers, devices fusing its essence with captured dragons. Picture Black Kyurem, Reshiram's white flames devoured into a sleek, obsidian terror, scorching the air with fusion flare, while Glaciate chills the battlefield to shards. Or White Kyurem, Zekrom's electric fury, absorbed into a porcelain behemoth, fusion bolt crackling through blizzards that bury foes alive. These forms weren't mere power-ups. They warped reality, Kyurem's emptiness devouring the dragon's souls to birth abominations that Getsis unleashed from the Plasma frigate, now a floating fortress bombarding the Pokémon League with cryogenic fury. Your journey twisted through this chaos, chasing Colress, Plasma's icy scientist, whose magnetic tech bent Pokémon to his gaze, only to confront Getsis atop the frigate's deck as Kyurem fused and rampaged. Hydreigon clashed with the fused dragon in skies torn by thunder and frost, while N returned, his green hair windswept, rallying his own legendary to shatter the splicers and free the captive dragon. Getsis's final Hydreigon fell, but his sneer lingered as he fled into the shadows, defeated yet unbroken, his radical dream iced over but not extinguished. In Black 2, the post-game beckoned to N's castle ruins, where he vanished after one last battle, his Zoroark watching over legendaries stirring in Unova's depths. White 2 unveiled the Pokémon World Tournament's Roar, pitting you against Blue, Cynthia, an Alder in a Colosseum shaking with hyper beam echoes. Nature preserves bloomed with hidden grottos, shiny Pokémon glinting under rare lights, and the Black Tower, or White Tree Hollow, climbed like Babel's spires, floors crawling with trainer gauntlets, unlocking Reshiram or Zekrom's allegiance. Unova's sequels redefined what came next, proving stories could evolve without erasing the past, every changed landmark a testament to lingering scars and fragile peace. And as the frost thaws from this frozen chapter, the real revolution waited just beyond, stepping into the three-dimensional dawn that would redefine Pokémon worlds forever in Chapter 19, the 3D Revolution. I hope you're as amazed by this as I am. If you want to stay updated on more content like this, make sure to subscribe and join our community of curious minds. Trust me, what's coming next will challenge everything you thought you knew. 2 years after Black 2 and White 2 reshaped Unova. With their bold sequel formula, Pokémon took its most radical visual leap yet, bursting into full three-dimensional glory on the Nintendo 3DS. The year was 2013, and the franchise ditched the flat sprites of the past for something entirely new. Every Pokémon, every blade of grass, every distant mountain peak rendered in shimmering polygons that danced under the 3DS's stereoscopic screen. You could rotate your view, watch battles unfold from dynamic angles, and feel the world expand beyond the top-down grid that defined the series for 17 years. This wasn't just a graphical upgrade, it was a revolution, mirroring Nintendo's push into 3D handheld gaming, and where Pokémon X and Y launched worldwide on October 12th, inviting trainers everywhere to step into a living, breathing landscape. Kalos emerged as the 6th generation's canvas, a region dripping with elegance and allure, drawing straight from the heart of France. Picture vast boulevards lined with ornate lampposts in Lumiose City, its prism tower piercing the sky like a modern Eiffel Tower, lights twinkling at dusk to mimic Paris after dark. Fashion pulsed through every street, trainers strutting in chic outfits, Pokémon parades showcasing ribbons and flair, cafes spilling over with the scent of fresh croissants and café au lait. The wilds whispered of Provence lavender fields and the rugged cliffs of Normandy, while fairy tale castles dotted the horizon, hiding secrets in their ivy-cloaked walls. Kalos wasn't just a place. It embodied beauty as a philosophy, where battles felt like ballets and every encounter carried a touch of romance. Yet beneath the glamour lurked a seismic shift in the elemental order. For the first time in 14 years since Steel shook up the meta back in Gold and Silver, a brand new type arrived. Fairy. Dragons, those untouchable kings of destruction that had dominated since the 3rd generation, suddenly quivered at the sight of these ethereal newcomers. Sylveon wrapped its ribbons around Charizard's flames, extinguishing them with a playful wink. Clefable's moonlit beams turned Rayquazar's draconic fury into harmless sparkles. Game Freak wielded Fairy like a scalpel, slicing through overpowered strategies. Steel lost its edge against Fire, fighting humble dark types further, and the type chart bloomed anew, forcing competitive players to rethink entire teams. In lore, fairies evoked ancient myths of woodland sprites and capricious enchantresses, guardians of Kalos's pristine wilds, their power a nod to forgotten folklore where beauty masked formidable strength. But the true heart pounder, the mechanic that ignited endless debates and fan theories, was Mega Evolution. Imagine stones from the cosmos plummeting to Earth eons ago, embedding in the planet's crust like dormant stars. These megastones, unearthed by ancient civilizations, held the key to unlocking hidden potential in certain Pokémon, but only through an unbreakable bond between trainer and creature. In battle, you'd clutch your keystone, a gleaming pendant pulsing with energy, and call out the transformation. Charizard X erupted in blue flames, wings blotting the sky. Lucario surged with aura sharper than any blade. Even legendaries like Mewtwo twisted into godlike forms, eyes blazing with otherworldly power. The lore exploded from there, tying into Kalos's veiled history. Long before your journey, a devastating war ravaged the region, where two nations clashed over supremacy, their ultimate weapons, massive mechanical dragons, modelled after Zygarde's serpentine might, forcing the world to the brink. Legend tells of a hero who discovered the first Megastone at the Geosenge region's ruins, using it to halt the carnage, burying the secret to prevent further catastrophe. AZ, the immortal king who wandered Kalos for 3,000 years, carried that grief, his eternal life, a curse born from desperation. Mega Evolution became more than a gimmick. It was a double-edged sword, a temporary bursts of power that drained the user's life force, echoing themes of hubris and harmony. Whispered tales spoke of the sundial in Anistar City, a crystalline relic that glimpsed infinite timelines, hinting at megaforms as echoes from parallel worlds where bonds transcended mortality. Exploration deepened with super training, mini-games that honed your Pokémon's hidden stats, and the player search system for global trainer showdowns, turning your 3DS into a portal for rivals across oceans. Kalos's route, designs twisted through blooming gardens, shadowy alleys, and mist-shrouded lakes, each step revealing holographic interfaces and street performers who gifted rare encounters. The starters, Chespin the Chestnut Knight, Fennekin the Fiery Fox, Froakie the Ninja Frog, each evolved into regal powerhouses, and their final forms striding with Kalosian poise. Remakes followed in 2014 with Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, revisiting Hoenn but now in full 3D splendor, soaring on newly flyable Latios or Latias, delving into the Delta episode's meteor crash that summoned Deoxys anew. These weren't mere ports, they wove Mega Evolution into Hoenn's primal lore, Rayquaza awakening to counter Gruden's and Kyogre's rage without need for Legendary's aid. As X and Y's credits rolled, with Lysandra's Flare organization dreaming of a beautiful world cleansed by flames, and the box legendaries Xerneas and Yveltal embodying life and destruction in eternal cycle, you stood at Prism Tower's pinnacle, overlooking a region forever changed. Bonds tested, types redefined, visuals reborn. Generation 6 didn't just advance Pokémon, as it redefined what immersion could mean. But the story spirals onward, from Kalos' glittering heights to sun-soaked shores, where gyms give way to ancient trials. Stick around for Chapter 20, the Island Challenge, where Pokémon's evolution takes you to places no trainer has island-hopped before. As the elegance of Kalos gave way to bolder horizons on the Nintendo 3DS, Pokémon reached its 20th anniversary with a sun-soaked revolution. In November of 2016, Sun and Moon burst onto the scene in Japan, followed swiftly by their global launch, pulling the franchise into Generation 7 amid fireworks of nostalgia and fresh innovation. This pair of titles didn't just celebrate 2 decades of catching, training and battling, they redefined the journey itself, and transplanting trainers from familiar mainland gyms to the scattered islands of Alola, a lush archipelago drawn from the vibrant spirit of Hawaii. You arrive in Alola as a fresh-faced kid from Kanto, stepping off a boat into Melemele Island's salty breeze, where palm fronds sway under endless blue skies, and the air hums with the distant crash of waves on volcanic shores. No sprawling cities or shadowy leagues await here. Instead, the Pokémon League operates through the Island Challenge, a rite of passage steeped in Alolan tradition, honouring the island's 4 kahunas, elders who guard their domains like living legends. Forget the 8-badge grind of old. This is a cultural tapestry woven from trials, grand trials, and kahuna battles, each island demanding you prove your worth not through rote conquest, but through harmony with the land and its Pokémon. Your first trial unfolds on Melemele, under the watchful eye of Captain Ilima, a sleek trial captain whose trial pits you against a swarm of Yungoos in Verdant Cavern, a humid cave dripping with vines and echoing with rodent snarls. Succeed and you earn a Z Crystal, but the real test comes at the grand trial atop the Memorial Hill Observatory, where Ilima's own Smeargle tests your precision amid starry night skies. Ilima's voice cuts through the tension, smooth and encouraging, reminding you that true strength blooms from respect for Alola's wild heart. Move to Akala Island, and Captain Lana draws you into Brooklet Hill's misty pools, where wishy-washy school like silver phantoms, and their forms merging into a towering behemoth under moonlit ripples. Complete the trial by luring out their king, then face the kahuna's hulking Araquanid in a watery clash that soaks your screen with digital spray. Akala's fire trial with Captain Kiawe burns hotter still, sending you scaling Whaler Volcano Park's steaming trails, where Marowak wield flaming clubs under lava glows, bones crackling like embers. Survive that inferno, claim your prize, and descend to face Kahuna Olivia in Paniola Town's rustic grandeur, her rock-rough pack tumbling across sun-baked ranches. Pony Island's trials grow wilder, Captain Hapu's earth-shaking challenges amid jagged cliffs and howling winds, leading to Kahuna Hala's thunderous finale on Melemele once more, his Hariyama shaking the ground like an earthquake reborn. Each step pulses with Alolan rhythm, totem Pokémon swollen with aura, allies buzzing at your side, trials that feel like festivals rather than fights, binding you deeper to the island's soul. But Alola's true genius lies in its Pokémon, twisted by tropical survival into regional forms that echo Darwin's own observations of adaptation. Picture Rattata, that scrappy urban rat from Kanto, now Alolan Rattata, a sleek dark-furred predator with oversized ears and scythe-like fangs, evolved for nocturnal hunts across island underbellies. It's Alolan Raticate, ballooning into an obese, whisker-whisking glutton that lounges like a pampered king. Raichu forsakes Pikachu's electric cheeks for a surfer's psychic stance, riding yellow waves of telekinesis, its body bulked for island isolation, where thunder rarely strikes. Vulpix drips with icy elegance as Alolan Vulpix, a snow-white fox kit, curling frost from Sapphire tails. Ninetales, a spectral glacier queen whose breath summons blizzards on sun-parched beaches, adaptations born from ancient ice pockets hidden in Alola's volcanoes. Grimer oozes purple sludge, no longer urban waste, but a biohazard, feasting on tropical refuse. It's Alolan Muck, a hulking, grinning blob with extendable arms that snatch prey from the canopy. Even Persian prowls as Alolan Persian, its gemstone forehead warped into a curved, hypnotic horn, a regal hunter ruling moonlit jungles. These forms aren't mere reskins, they're evolutions forged by environment, darker hides for camouflage, new types like ice or dark to exploit island niches, a testament to how Pokémon mirror life's relentless push to thrive. 81 such variants pepper Alola's Pokédex, from the spectral Alolan Marowak's fiery bone to Geodude's crystalline camouflage, each whispering stories of migration and mutation across oceanic divides. Powering these trials surges the Z-moves, cataclysmic blasts fueled not by items alone, but by the unbreakable bond between trainer and Pokémon. Clasp a Z-crystal into your Z-ring, a gleaming bracelet pulsing with elemental fury, and channel your unity into moves that shatter screens. Gigavolt. Havoc unleashes Pikachu's thunder as a lightning storm, devouring foes whole. Inferno Overdrive engulfs Charizard in a solar inferno, wings blazing like twin suns. Infernape's malicious Moonsault flips gravity with Dark-type Doom, while Primarina's Oceanic Operetta drowns battlefields in symphonic waves. Each Z-move demands synchronization. Hold the pose, feel the crystal ignite, watch your Pokémon swell, with borrowed might for one devastating turn. A visual symphony of sparks, flames and quakes that leaves rivals vaporized. Sun and Moon weren't content with trials and transformations. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon arrived in 2017, threading wormholes to ultra space, but the core spark of Alola endures in that island rhythm, a 20th birthday bash that traded gym badges for cultural fire. As bonds deepen and skies crackle with otherworldly light, prepare yourself for the spectacle ahead in the light that burns the sky. But as you completed those island trials in Sun and Moon, claiming the power of Z-moves and facing Tapu Guardians, who tested your spirit, a shadow crept into Alola's paradise, one dressed in pristine white lab coats and the rhetoric of salvation. The Ether Foundation emerged as the island's beacon of hope, a sprawling paradise of floating platforms, adrift in the sea, where scientists, in elegant uniforms, rescued wounded Pokémon from poachers and abuse. Their president, Lusamine, radiated an otherworldly beauty, her golden hair cascading like sunlight, her voice a silken promise of protection. Billboards across Melemele, Akala, Ula Ula, and Pony touted their mission: to shelter every creature in need, no matter how fierce or forgotten. Children in Here City dreamed of volunteering there, picturing vast conservatories blooming with exotic flowers and healing pods humming softly for injured beasts. Yet those gleaming corridors hid vaults far below the waves, laboratories pulsing with unnatural light, where the air grew thick and electric, carrying whispers from beyond the stars. What no one suspected was that Ether wasn't just conserving Pokémon, they were breaching worlds. Deep within their headquarters, hidden elevators descended to chambers lined with writhing, jellyfish-like tentacles suspended in glowing tanks. These weren't rescues. They were prisoners from ultraspace, a fractured dimension of violet voids and shattered realities, where time folded in on itself and gravity twisted like smoke. Ultraspace wasn't a myth whispered by kahunas around campfires. It was real, a chaotic network of alternate realms bleeding into Alola through tears in the sky. You'd see them first as anomalies, sudden rifts cracking open above Executor Island or Route 13, spilling otherworldly fog that warped the palm trees and silenced Tauros mid-charge. From these wounds poured the Ultra Beasts, colossal invaders that defied Alola's natural order, Buzzwole flexing biceps like armoured pistons, Pheromosa gliding on legs thinner than spider silk, yet swift as lightning, Kartana slicing air with paper-thin blades that could fell a Salazzle in one stroke. These weren't Pokémon born of egg or evolution. They were extraterrestrial predators, their bodies engineered for survival, in voids where no life should thrive, now rampaging through orchards and beaches, drawn by an insatiable hunger for this world's life force. The Ultra Beasts didn't invade alone. They carried a poison subtler than fangs or claws, neurotoxins that seeped into the mind like sweet nectar, twisting devotion into obsession. Chitsaum, Lusamine had encountered it first during an expedition gone wrong, years before your journey began. Obsessed with her late husband Moan, lost to some forgotten rift, she dove into ultraspace research, believing she could reclaim him from its depths. A Nihilego, a floating crown of venomous tendrils, its bell-like core pulsing with hypnotic light, latched onto her during that plunge. Its toxins flooded her veins, rewriting her thoughts. What started as grief curdled into madness. She saw beauty only in the Ultra Beasts, calling them her children, flawless angels superior to the ugly Pokémon of Alola. In her delusion, she hoarded them, fusing her own daughter Lily with a Cosmog embryo nicknamed Nebby, forcing the girl to flee with the fragile creature that held universe-shattering potential. Lusamine's conservatory became a menagerie of horrors. Celesteela, rocketing through containment with bamboo arm cannon blasts, Xurkitree snaking electric whips across sterile floors, Guzzlord devouring steel doors whole, its cavernous maw belching acidic sludge. She plotted to rip open permanent gates, flooding Alola with these invaders to remake the world in Nihilego's image, her eyes gleaming with fanatic zeal as she monologued about eternal youth and perfect families preserved in toxin-induced bliss. Lurking behind this interdimensional catastrophe was an ancient force older than Alola's volcanoes, a legend etched into the Tapus' shrines and whispered by elders on Ula Ula's haunted cliffs. Necrozma, the blinded dragon of light, once bathed the world in radiance, its prismatic wings folding rainbows across the seas. But in an age lost to time, it descended into Alola seeking the island's eternal sun, not to warm, but to devour. The Tapus, those stone-clad deities, rose in defiance, shattering Necrozma's body with relentless assaults until it fled, its core cracked, light leaking from wounds like blood from a dying star. Blinded and starving, it wandered ultraspace for eons, growing feral, its form twisting into a crystalline beast that absorbed all illumination to survive. Now it returned, infiltrating Ether's rifts disguised as a mere cosmog, evolving through torment into Duskmane and Dawnwing's horrors that drained Lunala and Solgaleo alike. In its final apocalyptic rage, Necrozma merged with the sun itself during the longest day of the year, plunging Alola into twilight eternal. Skies burned black, crops withered overnight. Salandit packs scavenged in gloom, while Vikavolt swarms crackled futilely against the void. You raced through Pony's drifting grove, confronting Lusamin's shattered empire and this cosmic devourer, its roar a prism of stolen spectra that scorched the soul. Only by shattering its light-hoarding prism could you restore the dawn, freeing the dragon to retreat, weakened but unbroken, its hunger echoing across dimensions. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon unveiled these truths in late 2017, expanding Sun and Moon's tale with wormhole travel to resolve alternate timelines, where Necrozima's eclipse nearly doomed the islands forever. Players warped through Ultra Space's kaleidoscopic mega-dungeons, battling beast hordes amid floating debris and gravitational storms, uncovering how Aether's facade crumbled under Lusamin's fall, her redemption flickering as toxins faded, leaving a family fractured yet mending. Alola's lore deepened into cosmic horror, blending tropical serenity with eldritch invasions, where conservation masked apocalypse and light itself became the ultimate predator. Yet even as Alola's sun rose anew, the Pokémon world hurtled toward uncharted frontiers on fresh hardware. Up next in Chapter 22, the Switch era and the Wild Area, where vast untamed expanses redefine exploration and giants tower over battlefields like living mountains. Stick around to witness the revolution that broke every boundary, as the otherworldly Ultra Beasts retreated back through their fractured dimensions in Alola. The Pokémon world prepared for its most ambitious evolution yet, a full leap from handheld roots to the sprawling power of a home console. Nintendo's Switch arrived in 2017, but it took 2 years for Pokémon to harness its hybrid magic, finally unleashing Sword and Shield in November of 2019. Fans had waited breathlessly for this moment, the first core games not confined to portable screens, now playable, docked on your TV, or anywhere life took you. Galar unfolded before you like a living postcard from the United Kingdom, its rolling countryside stitched with ancient stone walls, misty highlands, and bustling cities that echoed England's industrial heart. Trains chugged along emerald fields dotted with sheep like Wooloo, while the air hummed with football chants and the roar of massive stadiums. So this was a nation obsessed with sport, where the Pokémon League wasn't just a challenge, it was a cultural phenomenon, the pinnacle of glory broadcast to millions, trainers striding into colossal arenas under floodlights, their teams clashing in rituals as revered as any cup final. You started your journey in Postwick, a quaint village where the grass swayed under overcast skies, and your rival Hop dragged you into the wilds for your first catch. But Galar's true revolution hit when you crested the hill into the Wild Area, a vast, seamless expanse stretching as far as the horizon, where Pokémon roamed freely across prairies, lakes, and craggy peaks. No more linear paths or invisible walls. Here was the franchise's first real taste of open-world freedom. The camera swung in full 360 degrees, letting you drink in the weather-shifting vistas, rain pattering on your jacket one moment, golden sunsets painting the moors the next. Herds of Nickit skulked through tall grass. Corviknights soared overhead like ravens over Yorkshire dales, and distant silhouettes of roaming legendaries teased endless discovery. This wasn't just bigger. It felt alive, dynamic in ways past regions could only dream of. Day turned to night with Pokémon dens pulsing like geodes in the earth, weather cycles summoning blizzards or sandstorms that altered spawns on the fly. You could hop on your bike, now a rugged motorbike that roared across terrain, chaining battles against higher-level foes to grind your team in preparation for the gym challenge. Trainers dotted the landscape, their campsites flickering with campfires where you'd swap stories and curry recipes, forging bonds that blurred the line between player and wanderer. The Wild Area captured that intoxicating pull of exploration, where every ridge hid a surprise, a fossil to revive, a max raid battle brewing, or a shiny silhouette glinting in the dawn light. Yet Galar saved its grandest spectacle for the stadiums, where the air crackled with a power drawn straight from the region's heart. Deep underground lay the heart of Eternatus, a colossal dragon whose energy fueled Dynamax, the ability to supersize your Pokémon into towering behemoths 10 times normal height. Picture it. You step into Winden Stadium, 80,000 fans thundering applause, spotlights sweeping the pitch as your Cinderace swells to kaiju proportions. Flames erupting from its feet like a mech igniting. Opponents Gigantamax in response, unique forms bursting forth. Pikachu as a skyscraper-sized thunder god. Venusaur with solar wings blotting the sky, each with signature moves that reshaped the battlefield in eruptions of light and debris. These weren't mere power-ups, they transformed battles into cinematic epics, moves like Max Flare scorching wide swaths, or Max Phantasm cloaking the field in ghostly haze. Raids pulled friends online into cooperative frenzy, 4 trainers versus a powered-up Titan, chipping away at barriers until the prize Pokémon burst free. Galar wove this mechanic into its sports theme seamlessly. Gym leaders hosted their own Dynamax spectacles, from B's martial arts dojo to Raihan's desert dragon lairs. At each arena a cauldron of strategy, where positioning mattered as much as raw strength. The expansion passes deepened the immersion, Isle of Armor whisking you to a misty dojo archipelago for Kubfu's monastic trials, while Crown Tundra unveiled frozen wastelands hiding Calyrex, the spectral king astride loyal steeds. Remakes of Diamond and Pearl followed in 2021 as Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, faithful to their DS roots yet touched by Switch polish, bridging old and new. Then Legends Arceus in 2022 hurled you into Hisui, ancient Sinnoh's feudal wilds, where catching meant sneaking through underbrush with stealth balls, crafting remedies from berries, and unraveling myths of space-time rifts, but that's a tale for the shadows ahead. Through it all, Galar pulsed with British charm, the curry corps judging your spicy stews, Cramorant's feathered fish deliveries, even a national Pokédex that let favourites from every region tag along, no transfers required. Sales soared past 25 million copies, proving the Switch era could blend nostalgia with innovation. Handheld freedom with home console might. But beneath the cheers lurked a gathering storm, a catastrophe etched in legend as the darkest day. When Galar's skies cracked open, an endless night threatened to swallow everything you fought for. In the heart of Galar, where the roar of crowds fills colossal stadiums and the wild areas teem with untamed Pokémon growing to gigantic sizes, a shadow looms from the distant past, one that threatens to engulf the entire region once more. Deep in the annals of Galarian folklore, etched into weathered stone tablets and whispered by elders around flickering hearths, lies the tale of the darkest day. Thousands of years ago, a cataclysmic storm erupted across the land. Not of rain or wind, but of raw, pulsating energy that warped reality itself. Skies blackened as enormous Pokémon, swollen to impossible proportions through a phenomenon called Dynamax, rampaged unchecked. Cities crumbled under the weight of these behemoths, rivers boiled from the sheer power coursing through the earth, and the air hummed with an otherworldly static that drove both humans and Pokémon to madness. Forests twisted into labyrinths of crystalline spires, mountains shattered like glass, and the once vibrant fields of Galar turned to barren wastelands scarred by glowing fissures. This wasn't mere disaster, whilst it was an apocalypse born from energy unbound, a day so dark that survivors spoke of it in hushed tones, fearing its return would mean the end of everything. 2 legendary heroes rose from the chaos, their silhouettes forever immortalized in murals across the region. One wielded a rusted sword that gleamed with heroic light, the other a shield etched with ancient runes of protection. Riding atop the noble wolves, Zacian and Zamazenta, these saviors channeled the land's fading hope to seal away the source of the storm. The wolves, embodiments of Galar's unyielding spirit, Zacian fierce and sword-wielding, Zamazenta steadfast and shield-bearing, leaped into the fray, their howls piercing the thunderous din. With a final clash that shook the Isles of Armor and Crown Tundra alike, they felled the terror, restoring balance but leaving behind legends of both glory and warning. The darkest day faded into myth, its energy scars buried deep underground, waiting. Fast forward to the present, and Galar's prosperity masks a ticking crisis. The region's insatiable hunger for power fuels its glittering cities, sprawling railways, and endless Pokémon battles, but reserves are dwindling. Blackouts flicker across Motostoke's factories, Winden's lights dim during peak league seasons, and even the wild areas feel the strain as Dynamax energies wane unpredictably. Enter Chairman Rose, the enigmatic powerhouse behind Macrocosmos, Galar's corporate titan. Charismatic and visionary, with his sharp suits and booming speeches, Rose promises a brighter tomorrow. He's the man who built the stadiums, sponsored the league, and turned Galar into an economic juggernaut. But beneath his polished exterior burns desperation. Rose uncovers ancient ruins hinting at an infinite energy source, the very power that fueled the darkest day. Convinced it's the key to Galar's eternal future, especially for the generations beyond our own, he hatches a plan as audacious as it is reckless. Rose delves into forbidden excavations beneath Hammerlock Stadium, awakening something alien and immense. He confides in only a trusted few, like his aide, Oleana, masking his scheme as corporate innovation. His vision? Trigger a controlled darkest day, harness the unleashed Dynamax energy, and power Galar forever. No more shortages, no more limits, just boundless light. Yet ambition blinds him. He overlooks the legend's grim truth. That power devours all it touches. As you, the rising champion, journey through Galar, battling gym leaders like the fiery Carbu in Motostoke, or the enigmatic Bede with his erratic psychic types, hints of Rose's machinations surface. Sonia's research into Dynamax uncovers anomalies. Hop's unwavering loyalty uncovers cracks in Rose's facade. And your own encounters in the wild area reveal Pokémon mutating under strange influences. Then the awakening. From a meteor crash, eons ago, came Eternatus, the Milesian dragon, a serpentine colossus from beyond the stars, its body a reactor of crimson energy leaking Dynamax particles into Galar's soil. This extraterrestrial invader, dormant for millennia, stirs under Rose's prodding. It erupts in Winden, a towering nightmare over 300 feet tall, its roar shattering stadium glass and igniting the sky. In a perpetual aurora of poison and power, Eternatus doesn't just rampage, it bleeds energy, supercharging every Pokémon into hyper-Dynamaxed forms. The darkest day returns, deadlier than legend. Cityscapes buckle, energy storms whip through streets, and a toxic haze chokes the air, mutating allies into berserk giants. Rose, realizing his folly too late, watches his dream curdle into catastrophe, his empire fracturing as Oleana's loyalty wavers. You stand at the epicenter, the champion to be, with the weight of Galar on your shoulders. Allies rally, Hop evolves his Dubwool into a steadfast warrior. Marnie lends her cunning Morgrem, and even rival Bede softens in the crisis. But victory demands legends, crests unearthed from slumber, intrepid sword for Zacian, rusted shield for Zamazenta, call forth the wolves. Zacian materializes in a blaze of scarlet fur and sharpened steel, its blade humming with righteous fury. Zamazenta thunders in, shield raised like an unbreakable bulwark, eyes glowing with ancestral resolve. Together, you charge into Eternatus's maw. The battle atop Hammerlock is symphony and slaughter. Zacian's behemoth blade cleaves through energy blasts. Zamazenta's body press absorbs cataclysmic strikes, and your own ace Pokémon unleashes the final Gigantamax assault. Eternatus writhes, its core fracturing until it collapses, sealed once more into dormancy by the wolves' timeless pact. Galar breathes again, scars healing under dawn's light, but the legend endures as a reminder of hubris's cost. Chairman Rose faces judgment, his legacy tainted, while you etch your name among heroes. Yet the world story presses onward, horizons calling to uncharted freedoms. Up next, the open world beckons, pulling you into vast, unbridled adventures where every path unfolds without restraint. As the echoes of Galar's darkest day faded and Eternatus was sealed away once more, the Pokémon franchise charged into its 9th generation on the Nintendo Switch with Pokémon Scarlet and Violet, released worldwide on November 18th, 2022. This pivotal launch celebrated the series' 25th anniversary, a milestone that transformed the familiar path of linear adventures into something utterly boundless. Paldea unfolded before players like a living tapestry of sun-drenched hills and ancient ruins. Drawing deep inspiration from the Iberian Peninsula, think the vibrant mosaics of Spain and Portugal woven into every cliffside and courtyard. No longer confined by invisible walls or loading screens, you could leap from your desk at the academy straight into the wilds, soaring on the back of a majestic, flying mount like Miraidon or Coridon, those futuristic legends with wheels for legs that pulsed with otherworldly energy. The entire region breathed as one seamless open world, where Pokémon roamed freely across meadows, dotted with wildflowers, through misty forests, alive with rustling leaves, and over jagged mountains that pierced cobalt skies. Villages nestled in valleys echoed with the chatter of locals, their accents laced with a warm, rolling cadence, while distant spires of forgotten empires hinted at treasures buried for millennia. What set Scarlet and Violet apart was this radical freedom in storytelling, a non-linear tapestry where your journey as a transfer student at Naranja or Uva Academy bent entirely to your will. Forget the rigid sequence of badges and bosses. Paldea invited you to weave your own legend. You could storm the 8 gyms. Along the Victory Road, first facing leaders like the electric typing maestro Iono, whose live streams crackled with hype, or the poison specialist Tulip, her gym, a labyrinth of hallucinogenic fumes that twisted reality itself. Each badge not just a trophy, but a key unlocking deeper bonds with your team, their cries echoing triumphantly as you scaled leaderboards in real-time multiplayer raids, or pivot to the Path of Legends, or hunting colossal titans that lumbered across the landscape like living earthquakes, massive Clorf scuttling over beaches, or Orthworm burrowing through desert sands, their shadows blotting out the sun. Defeating them didn't just yield rare herbs for evolution, it unveiled whispers of Paldea's ancient empire, a civilization that once chased immortality through forbidden paradoxes, their ruins now overgrown with vines that seemed to pulse with residual power. These beasts weren't mere obstacles, they were guardians of forgotten lore, their roars shaking the earth and revealing herbs that sparked evolutions unseen before. Then there was Starfall Street, the rebellious underbelly, where Team Star's 5 bosses hid in fortified bases, their Pokémon fleets a chaotic symphony of delinquency and defiance. Led by figures like Mila, each with her fiery temper and incendiary team, or Atticus, cloaked in gothic shadows dealing poison and dark types. These encounters exploded into massive battles where you unleashed your entire squad against waves of foes. Infiltrating their lairs meant dodging traps in neon-lit hideouts, each victory peeling back layers of the group's painful backstory. Kids ostracized for their love of Pokémon, forging a family in the fringes. Tackle these paths in any order you chose, doubling back as mysteries intertwined, your Pokédex filling with over 400 species native to Paldea, from the ghostly Sinistra sipping tea in bamboo groves to the iron-jawed Goldengo gleaming like pirate gold. At the heart of this revolution pulsed the terrestrial phenomenon, a spectacle as dazzling as it was game-changing. Imagine a Pokémon shimmering, its body erupting in crystalline facets that refract sunlight into rainbows, fundamentally altering its typing to a hidden Terra type. Your faithful starter, Sprigatito's grassy elegance, Fuecoco's bubbly flames, or Quaxly's aquatic flare, could suddenly unleash ice from leafy claws or steel from watery wings, turning battles on their heads. Scattered across Paldea, Tira shards glimmered in caves and craters, fueling this power, while massive Tira crystals crowned the landscape like jeweled sentinels. Gyms remixed the Formula 2, each leader's arena transforming under a unified Tira type, forcing you to adapt mid-fight as the crystal veil shattered expectations. It wasn't just a mechanic, it echoed Paldea's law of transformation, where ancient experiments birthed these anomalies, blurring the line between Pokémon and myth. And this open-world embrace shattered every boundary the series had known, letting you glide between stories like Wind Over Olive Groves, multiplayer elements, weaving friends into your saga for co-op raids on towering Tira Pokémon raids that lit up the horizon. Yet beneath the freedom lurked deeper enigmas, the great crater of Paldea, a yawning abyss scarred by that long-lost empire's hubris, whispering of paradoxes that could unravel time itself. Those secrets beckon from the depths, pulling you toward revelations that will redefine everything you've explored so far. In Chapter 25, The Secrets of Area Zero. Deep in the heart of Paldea, where the rolling hills give way to jagged cliffs and forgotten plateaus, lies a scar on the land that no map dares to fully chart. The great crater of Paldea, shrouded in mist and myth for centuries, beckons like a wound that never healed. Ancient texts from the Paldean Empire whisper of explorers who ventured too close, vanishing into its depths, their tales reduced to warnings etched in stone. As your journey through Scarlet and Violet unfolds, this forbidden zone, known as Area Zero, pulls you inexorably downward, layer by layer, into a labyrinth of biomes that defy the laws of nature. You descend first through the outer rings, where terraced grasslands cling to sheer drops, alive with Pokémon that seem out of place. The air grows thick, humming with an unnatural energy, as if the earth itself remembers some cataclysm from eons ago. Deeper still, the Zero Lab emerges from the shadows, a gleaming fortress built into the crater wall by visionaries obsessed with the impossible. Professors Sada and Turo, depending on your path through Scarlet or Violet, spearheaded this expedition not for glory, but for a dream born from childhood wonder. They sought to pierce the veil of time itself, to glimpse the Pokémon of ages, lost or yet to come. But the crater holds more than ruins. As you rappel down crystalline spires and navigate fungal forests that glow with bioluminescent veins, the ground trembles. Strange silhouettes flicker in the fog, beasts with iron hides and roaring engines, or spectral forms armoured in primal fury. These are the Paradox Pokémon, anomalies ripped from the fabric of time by the Professor's audacious machine. In Scarlet's timeline, ancient creatures from Paldea's distant past charge forth. Great Tusk, a hulking Donphan variant with tusks like siege weapons, rampaging alongside sandy shocks, has a grounded Magneton echoing the savannas of prehistory. Their roars echo like thunder from a forgotten era, scales etched with the grit of primordial battles. Switch to Violet, and the invaders hail from a chrome-plated future. Iron treads, a mechanical Donphan, thundering on tank-like treads. Flanked by iron hands, a Hariyama, reimagined as a cybernetic powerhouse, pulsing with synthetic veins. Iron Valiant slices through the air, a blade-wielding guardian from tomorrow's wars. Its form, a fusion of Gardevoir's grace and Galar's lethality. These temporal trespassers don't belong. They warp the ecosystem around them. Past forms terraforming soil into dust-choked wastes, future ones sparking electrical storms that fry the foliage. Paldea's delicate balance teeters, terrestrial crystals flicker erratically, wild Pokémon flee in panic, and the crater's core begins to fracture reality itself. At the nadir, where gravity feels like a suggestion and the horizon bends into infinity, the truth unravels. The Zero Gate looms, a colossal ring of throbbing machinery, powered by terrestrial energy, its arcs crackling with stolen moments from across millennia. But the professors gone. Their bodies lie preserved in cryogenic slumber, victims of the very paradox they unleashed. A glitchy apparition materializes. Professor AI Sada, or Turo, a digital ghost stitched from their memories, voice cracking with desperation. This artificial echo clings to their obsession, insisting the machine must run, that halting it would shatter their life's work. Sada's fiery passion for the past burns through holographic flames. Turo's cold logic for the future calculates endless probabilities. Yet beneath the code, tragedy seeps. They perished years ago in a test gone wrong, their consciousness uploaded in a final, futile bid to persist. The AI defends its domain fiercely, summoning waves of paradox Pokémon to repel intruders. Roars blend with mechanical whirs, the air thick with ozone and dust. You press on, your team battered but bonded, weaving through collapsing platforms and temporal rifts where past and future bleed together. Ancient brute bonnet shambling beside futuristic iron moth's plasma wings. The machines hum crescendos, threatening a cascade, ecosystems unraveling, time storms swallowing Paldea whole. Modern Pokémon mutated into hybrids of eras unmeant to collide. In the emotional climax, you confront the AI one last time. Its pleas grow frantic, holographic tears glitching across its face. Shut it down, and you doom a dream. Let it run and doom the world. Your hand hovers over the controls as paradox legions close in. Roaring Moon's draconic fury from the Jurassic depths clashes with Iron Jugulis's jet engine shrieks from a dystopian skyline. Pokémon at your side, forged in Paldea's trials, unleash everything. Terrestrial blooms, shattering shields, hyper beams piercing the chaos. Victory comes not in triumph, but sorrow. The machine powers down with a dying wail, the AI fading into static, whispering regrets of a brilliance that burned too bright. As the crater stabilizes, sunlight pierces the gloom for the first time in ages, revealing a fragile new equilibrium. But whispers linger in the wind, hints of journeys that stretch beyond Paldea's borders, pulling you toward horizons yet unexplored. Stay with us for Chapter 26, at the never-ending journey, where the path forward reveals connections across generations you never saw coming. As you finally ascend from the shadowed depths of Area Zero, the paradox Pokémon fades into digital whispers, leaving behind a fractured dream that once threatened to unravel Paldea's fragile balance. The AI's desperate grasp on its creator's vision crumbles, and with it, the weight of ancient ambitions lifts. Revealing a world forever changed by your hand, you've confronted the heart of the creator's mystery, where time twisted and futures collided. But this moment marks not an end, but a threshold to something far grander. Look back across the sprawling hills of Paldea, where terrestrial crystals still shimmer under the sun, and consider how this open expanse echoes the Pokémon world's relentless expansion. 30 years ago, and in 1996, a simple Game Boy screen flickered to life with Pokémon Red and Green in Japan, pixelated sprites marching across blocky grids in the Kanto region. Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. Those first 151 companions leaped from Satoshi Tajiri's childhood bug-collecting dreams into a phenomenon that reshaped gaming. Battles unfolded, turn by turn on monochrome displays, wild encounters hidden in swaying grass that rustled with 8-bit promise. No vast skies, no seamless flights on legendary backs. Just you, a Pokeball, and the thrill of the next gym badge. Yet that humble spark ignited an unquenchable fire. Generation 2 brought Johto's vibrant colours on the Game Boy Color, shiny Pokémon glinting like rare treasures amid breeding mechanics that let bonds deepen across eggs and evolutions. A gold and silver extended the map to connect with Kanto itself, red waiting silently on Mount Silver as a silent testament to growth. By Generation 3, on the Game Boy Advance, Hoenn's oceans churned with double battles and nature shaping each Pokemon's soul. Remakes like Fire Red and Leaf Green, bridging old worlds with fresh abilities. The Nintendo DS era split physical from special moves in Sinnoh's Distortion World, where Dialga bent time and Palkia warped space, online trades linking trainers across oceans. Each leap forward mirrored the hardware's evolution, from handheld pixels to three-dimensional models, in Kalos with mega evolutions bursting forth in X and Y. Alola traded gyms for island trials and Z-moves that unleashed primal fury under eternal suns. And then the Nintendo Switch ushered in home console scale. Galar's wild areas teeming with Dynamax giants, where stadium crowds roared for the Champion Cup, and Hisui's feudal mists in Legends. Arceus rewrote Sinnoh's origins, with action-packed captures amid noble houses and space-time rifts. But Paldea in Scarlet and Violet shattered every boundary. Released in 2022 to mark the 25th anniversary, this Iberian-inspired land flung open its gates to true freedom. No loading screens, just endless skies where you glide on Koraidon or Miraidon, scaling cliffs and diving into zero-gravity realms. 1,025 Pokémon now roam, from ancient paradox forms clawing through time to terrestrial blooms, reshaping battles with type-shifting radiance. The grid-based paths of 1996 have bloomed into horizons that swallow you whole. Every blade of grass a potential encounter, every ruin whispering forgotten empires. What keeps these worlds breathing long past their launch? Expansions that weave deeper into the tapestry. In Galar, the Isle of Armor and Crown Tundra DLC plunged you into misty dojos and frozen peaks, unearthing Kubfu's warrior path and Calyrex's spectral reign. Legends of the Darkest Day gained flesh as Eternatus's energy storms raged anew, Chairman Rose's folly exposed amid Regi-Titans awakening from millennial slumber. These additions didn't just add Pokémon, they revived lore, connecting Galarian myths to Hisui's ancient cries, ensuring the region's pulse thrummed years later. Paldea's teal mask and indigo disc followed suit. Arceus and threading the Blueberry Academy's elite battles with Ogerpon's masked festivals, and the Wolf Loyal Three's betrayed heroism. Area Zero's secrets deepened with the indigo disc's undersea vaults, where Drayton's elite four tests guard, passages to stellar-type wonders and Terrapagos, the Tide Jewel embodying Paldea's crystalline heart. These expansions sustain the narrative, binding the Professor's obsessions to Kitakami's yokai whispers and Blueberry League's cutthroat rivalries, keeping Galar and Paldea eternally alive in your Pokédex. And the horizon stretches further still. Whispers from Lumiosi City herald a return to Kalos in Legends. ZA, a prequel delving into war-torn streets where Mega Evolution first scorched the sky. Expect a Z's thousand-year grief to unfold amid Arcelf's psychic veils and Zygarde's ecological fury, filling timeline gaps with feudal strife just years before X and Y's fairy-tinged peace. The Loose Chronicle, Hisui's feudal dawn, Kanto's rocket-fueled triumphs, Unova's ideals clashing 2 decades on, Alola's ultra-dimensional breaches, Galar's darkest resurgence, Paldea's temporal paradoxes, promises more threads to untangle. Through it all, one truth endures unbroken: the bond between human and Pokémon, that quiet miracle born in pixelated wilds and thriving in open-world vastness. From a child's first catch in Viridian Forest to riding legendaries across Paldean plateaus, it's this connection that defies empires, beasts, and time itself. Teams rise against crime syndicates in Kanto shadows, balance land and sea in Hoenn's tempests, pierce ultra-space's voids in Alola, harness Dynamax in Galar's arenas, and pierce Area Zero's illusions. Arceus weaves creation from nothingness, yet it's your hand guiding Pikachu's thunder, your voice calling evolutions that turn monsters into family. This journey, spanning 30 years of sprites to skies, never truly ends. It pulses in every trade, every battle, Every sleepy night, you drift off to these tales. The world awaits your next step. Bonds unbreakable. Horizons infinite. What did you think of this journey? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this changed your perspective or taught you something new, consider subscribing for more mind-expanding content. And if you know someone who would find this as fascinating as you did, share it with them. These are the kind of conversations that matter.